My name is William Maitland. 6 months ago, I was married. Today, I am single. 6 months ago, I loved a woman who I believed loved me back. Now, I understand she doesn't feel the same way. The truth hit me like a freight train when I caught her texting her lover, right there in our bedroom. Now, I'm drawn to a French woman, but she's with another man. Yet there's something in the way she looks at me that makes me believe she feels something too. Could this be a step forward, or am I headed down another dead-end road? You know I'm such a fool for you. 6 months ago, I was the lead prosecutor at the state attorney's office in Jacksonville. People at the courthouse knew me and thought positively of my work. Today, after facing some personal challenges, I have gained the nickname, the Angel of Death. I have become somewhat known online. After winning a significant case, my reputation grew, and it seems to create some concern among defense attorneys. Of course, it all feels a bit exaggerated. If anyone prefers to stay out of the spotlight, it is definitely me. I don't want to sell products or chase a career in show business. I just want to do my job, to keep those who hurt others in prison and prevent further harm. And since I'm not aiming for more than what I had in my career before, I'm unsure if that means I am making progress. 6 months ago, I had a 17-year-old daughter who had mixed feelings about me, and my 14-year-old son often tried to avoid me, seeing me as a barrier in his life. Today, even though our relationships aren't completely healed, they know I love them. I still do, despite spending too many years focusing on work. 6 months ago, I often felt alone in my marriage and understood why my wife might have pulled away. I had let myself go and hadn't taken care of my appearance. From my work experience, I understand people behave towards you the way you allow them to, and I never let anyone at work treat me the way Debbie treated me at home. I loved her, even knowing I disappointed her, and I was thankful for the little affection she showed, as even that felt better than nothing. In recent months, I met various appealing women, but none compared to the bond I had with Debbie. I realized that even our smallest moments were more meaningful than brief encounters with others. But Aline was different. I felt I had lost someone special, and I struggled with that loss until she came back into my life. Wednesday, August 31st, 2005, 9:15 p.m. We walked along the shore with our shoes and socks in our hands. A light blanket I had from my car was draped over my shoulder. Even in late August, the cool foam from the waves felt brisk against my skin, making me shiver. Aline just laughed at me. I knew that people who visited the beach in her country were tough. They often faced waters that would make others turn back. We held hands like young sweethearts. I haven't done this since I was a teenager, she told me. Really? With all the beautiful islands you visit, you've never walked by the water? I've gone swimming, but walking like this, holding hands, it feels special. That's meaningful, Aline. You travel to all these romantic places, but you don't have someone to share them with. Has Philippe ever come with you? In the beginning, he would join me for a few days or a week, but as his work became more demanding, he had less time. Even at home, we struggle to find time for us, and it often revolves around Andre. That sounds familiar. I can see why you fell for him. He seems like an interesting person. There must be more to him than meets the eye. She leaned closer, and I steadied myself as a wave splashed around us. I could hear seagulls in the distance and other birds along the shore. On the other side of the inlet, across from the bridge that spanned the water, was a protected area where many birds had safe places to nest. He was someone special. You worked with him. You know how women respond to him. He doesn't even have to try. They just notice him. I did too at first, but that wasn't why I fell in love with him. You know how cliché that sounds, and we French are usually more practical about love than what you might think. But I can't describe it any other way. It happened again when I saw you. I didn't expect it to happen either time. She turned towards me, and I steadied her against the gentle waves. She took my hand and placed it close to her, and I felt a deep bond between us. There wouldn't be a problem, my dear, if we were just casual, she said. I could spend 2 weeks here, enjoy our time, and then return to Philippe. I've had other relationships before, and it didn't bother me to go back. But we are more than that, I said. feeling the weight of what we were experiencing. She held my chin with her hand and looked into my eyes with great seriousness. "Don't ever say that, Bill, please. I'm not sure what we are, and that frightens me. But I know we're not just casual." She leaned in closer, and it felt like a scene from an old romance movie. The sounds around us were just birds settling down for the night and the soft hum of cars in the distance. "We are close," she said softly. "I understand. And that's why I'm worried about how I'll feel when you leave. You will go, no matter how much we try to avoid thinking about it. You'll return home, and I will stay here." She rested her head against me. "Don't say that. I won't say it again, Aline, but I want you to know I chose this. I could have ended things yesterday. I know I should have, but I didn't. The responsibility is mine, and the sadness when you're gone will also be mine." I held her close, feeling her heartbeat against me. "When you leave and fly back to Philippe, I don't want you to look back or regret any moment we had together. I do this because you are special to me. I feel tired and worn out, thinking my life is almost over, but I know there will be other women. I don't know if I will ever marry again, and if I did, it would likely be for practical reasons. But you are different. I'm not someone who believes everything is meant to be, and I don't want to think that there's a higher power that causes pain and confusion, yet it doesn't seem like chance that brought us together. Some way, I think we were meant to meet. It sounds silly, but if I hadn't met Debbie that year at UF, I don't think I would have found anyone I could love as much. And if I had gone to France and met you before Philippe, I believe it would have been us." Tears filled her eyes. "Don't even think about that." I placed my hand gently over her mouth to quiet her. "Instead of a life with you, I'll only have to accept 2 weeks. But if you do it right, sometimes 2 weeks can feel like forever." She leaned closer, softly saying, "I want you with me, Bill. I want to be near you." I interrupted gently. "If you keep that up, I might lose my focus, and at my age, I'm not sure how quickly I can bounce back." She smiled at me. "Want to bet I couldn't make you feel that way in just a minute, Mr. Maitland? I would never bet against you, but let's save that for later. Come on." I led her from the beach into the sand dunes. Cars occasionally drove by us, but in the rolling sands, we felt isolated. I spread a light blanket on the sand and sat beside her, trying to enjoy the moment. "Oh, Aline." I wanted to treasure our time together, so I turned my focus to her, enjoying her company. "Tell me that in 30 seconds, I said playfully as I gently adjusted her dress. My smile grew as we connected. "Oh, it feels so nice. I missed this. Every day, every moment." Her eyes met mine and she asked, "Did you miss me like this, Bill? Was I on your mind constantly?" "I missed you every day, Aline, and almost every minute." I couldn't help but smile, and she saw it. She playfully swatted me on the head, then let go. "You know, I'm very upset with you," she said, her annoyance clear. I leaned in closer, trying to understand her feelings. "But I will forgive you. If you stop making me so upset," she added with a slight smile. Her legs were wrapped around me, and I remembered her strength. I pulled back a little, softly apologizing. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to upset you." Her face softened as she relaxed. We hugged, letting the tension between us fade away in that quiet moment. After a few minutes, I leaned on my elbows, still catching my breath. "Wow," I said, amazed by the moment. "How about magnifique?" she teased, her smile coming back. "You were definitely magnifique," I replied with a grin. "For an older man, you weren't too bad," she joked, making me laugh. "You're only saying that because you know I've given in. You've won this round," I said playfully. She laughed and leaned against me, happy in our peaceful closeness. As the sounds of the night surrounded us, we lay there enjoying the calm. Frogs or crickets made the dunes lively with their music. "You really thought of me every day?" she asked. I placed my hand on her cheek and looked into her dark eyes. They had held me captive since the first moment I saw her on the Bonne Chance, long before I knew her name. I realized I had been right all along. She was someone who could deeply affect me. Every day. Would you have forgotten me? You're a man, and I know you've had other interests since we last met. Would I become just another face from your past? Is that what I would become to you, when you go back to André and Philippe and your life in Paris? She looked at me sadly. You will always be the secret in my heart standing between me and Philippe. I pray he never finds out about you. And you will always be the one that I lost. Thursday, September 1st, 2005, 11 a.m. I was probably a bit slow when I finally walked into my office, but staying until 2 a.m. and having a tiring night with a Frenchwoman does that to you. I think she would have found a way to keep things interesting if we could have figured it out. I had gotten up at 6 a.m., barely made it to the gym, and went through the motions of a workout. My legs felt rubbery. They were just tired, and I felt every bit of my nearly 42 years. But I pushed myself. If I let every temptation keep me out of the gym, I knew I would soon be the same old out-of-shape person I had been for years. That wasn't going to happen. I waved at Susie as I walked in and found out that Cheryl was still out with the illness that had knocked her down 2 days earlier. I wasn't happy that Cheryl was sick, but in a way, I was glad she hadn't been around when Aline showed up. I had a feeling she would have figured out who Aline was, and the word would have reached Debbie. I had no reason to fear a confrontation. We were done, and there was nothing Debbie could do to change that. In a way, I wanted to show Debbie that I could still have someone like Aline in my life. But that would only create more problems. For now, it was just Aline and me in our own little world, and I was trying my best to focus on just us for the next 2 weeks. I knew it was unlikely, but I wanted to keep Aline away from my usual life as much as possible. When I opened my office and turned on my laptop, I took a moment to yawn and clear my head. Then my phone rang. "You have a caller," Susie said. "She won't say who she is." "I'll take it." "Who could it be? Is anyone listening?" "No." "Good. I just wanted to let you know what I was up to, Mr. Maitland. Can you guess?" "Maybe reading a book or planning to take a taxi around Jacksonville?" "I miss you. I know you have work. But I miss you and wish you were here. I need to hang up soon. I have things to do." "All right, Mr. Maitland, I'll let you get back to it, but remember you have something important tonight." "Trust me, I won't forget." After hanging up, I tried to get back to work. The first thing on my agenda was to prepare for court next week to ask for a strict sentence for Judy Johansson. I had recently convicted her of a serious crime, but we had a long way to go to decide her fate. During the penalty phase, Lou Walters would do his best to convince the judge to be kind to the 67-year-old woman. It was up to the judge, and despite my nickname, I didn't feel strongly about pushing for the toughest punishment. I thought that living the rest of her life in prison, visiting with family through glass and guards, would be enough punishment for her. I didn't want to see her face a worse fate. On the following Wednesday, her lawyers would work hard to avoid a long sentence. I could deal with that. However, I didn't want her to get a short sentence and be released with many years ahead of her. While I didn't want the worst punishment, I needed her to remain in prison. I planned to be in the courtroom next Wednesday. After that, I moved on to other cases. One case that troubled me the most was about a man named William Sutton. I was almost certain he had hurt his pregnant soon-to-be ex-wife, and the situation was serious for both her and their unborn child. Yet there was a real chance he might not face consequences for his actions and could end up wealthy and free. Sutton was a 37-year-old financial advisor for a company in Pontevedra, working with clients along the East Coast. The company was doing well, and so was Sutton, but he didn't come from a wealthy background. His wealth was modest. He had lucked out by meeting and marrying a nurse named Sheila Conroy, who, like him, seemed to come from a working-class family. Sheila was a pretty blonde with a bright smile. Looking at the happy photos from their early marriage, it seemed they truly cared for each other. Sutton was also good-looking. He was 6 feet 2 inches tall, had brown hair, and was in good shape. However, there was something in his eyes that stood out to me when I first saw his pictures. Our investigations confirmed this feeling. William Sutton was, simply put, a difficult person. He blamed others for his problems and took all the credit for his successes. He liked to undermine his co-workers and often cheated to win. He held on to anger and never forgot any perceived wrongs. Although he could act friendly, this would quickly change to betrayal. He was smart enough to hide his lies, sneaky, vengeful, and unyielding. Through many interviews, we learned he had a strong interest in women both before and after marriage. He was charming and seemed carefree, which led to many shady relationships. This behavior caused jealousy toward his wife, who appeared to be loyal. For 2 years, Sutton made her life hard. constantly watching her and questioning her every move. Eventually, the stress became too much for her, leading to a conflict that required her to see a doctor. Sutton was accused of causing her distress. His mother paid for a good lawyer who managed to reduce the charges to a lesser offense. After they separated, they learned that Sheila's estranged father, who had left when she was a baby, had become quite wealthy. He passed away suddenly, leaving Sheila and her two siblings a $15 million estate to share. This meant Sutton now faced a divorce and the potential loss of at least half of that large inheritance. This news did not please Sutton. He had a short temper and some deep flaws, and he suspected his wife had been unfaithful. After their separation, he lived in an apartment for several months, then moved back in with his mother in Ocala, a well-known horse racing community about 100 miles south of Jacksonville. One night in March, after finishing her shift at St. Vincent's in downtown Jacksonville, Sheila told her friends that she had received a call from William Sutton, asking for one last chance to meet and talk. Sutton was known for being quite charming. She said she wasn't sure about meeting him, but after 5 years of marriage and expecting his child, she felt he deserved one last chance to talk about their situation. She had 2 days before her next work shift, and while some friends tried to call her the next day, they weren't too worried when they couldn't reach her. After all, it was common for ex-spouses to reconnect. Their concern grew when she missed her shift, leading them to check her apartment. When they couldn't find her, they called the police in Jacksonville, who then contacted the Ocala police. They found Sutton playing golf at a local range and learned that he hadn't left Ocala that week. His mother confirmed he was at home. Some neighbors said they saw his car parked outside during the night. 2 weeks after Sheila went missing, a body was discovered in the dunes near Jacksonville by the beaches. It was hard to identify her because of the condition of the remains, but dental records and fingerprints confirmed it was Sheila, along with her unborn child. Forensics indicated that a hard object had caused severe injuries, and there was also evidence of harm to the fetus. Investigators questioned Sutton multiple times and spoke with neighbors, Sheila's friends and colleagues, Sutton's mother, and others. In the end, they had strong suspicions that he had left Ocala that night, met with Sheila, and that something tragic had happened. However, there was no physical proof linking him to the crime, and no witnesses saw them together. No one could confirm that he had even left his mother's house. He could have reached Jacksonville on the highway in a couple of hours, caused harm, and returned in just a few hours. But there was no evidence he did that. Sutton maintained that he was sick all night on the evening Sheila was killed. He insisted he had been checking on his son, who was asleep in bed, and claimed it was impossible for him to have left home. For nearly 7 months, we investigated Sutton multiple times without finding any contradictions in his story. It was becoming frustrating. I was about to call Ned Coleman, the homicide detective from the Marion County Sheriff's Office, when Cheryl interrupted me with a buzz. "Mr. Maitland, Detective Coleman from Marion County is on the line." "Coleman, what a coincidence. I was just about to call you to check if there was any news. Are you sitting down?" "Oh, no, please don't tell me. Billy Boy might be in a tough spot." "Give me the details." "There's an older man named Edgar Bell who lives about 200 yards down that dirt road from Sutton's mom. There are only 5 houses on that street, and the other 3 neighbors are quite elderly and weren't awake that night. We couldn't contact Edgar because he often travels for weeks or months to see family or just to enjoy his camper. He got back to town 2 days ago and called us this morning. I went to talk with him, and I think we've found something important. Edgar left town right after Sheila was killed and didn't know anything about it until he returned. He has some issues with Sutton's mom because of a property dispute, and he doesn't care much for Sutton either. He's quite sure about what he remembers. He was awake at midnight when Sheila was murdered and clearly remembers seeing Sutton's mom's car moving down the road slowly with the lights off. He thought it was strange because she doesn't usually go out at night. At 6 a.m. the next morning, just as the sun was coming up but not fully bright yet, he got up to catch the morning news. When he looked out his window, he saw the lady's car coming back down the road into her driveway. The lights were off, and it was moving quietly. He mentioned that he saw Sutton get out of the car, walk over to a burn barrel in their backyard and throw away something that looked like clothes. Then he went back inside his mom's house. Edgar thought it was odd, but didn't think much of it at the time. Edgar left for a trip to the Canadian Rockies the next day and only learned about the incident when he got back. He called my office shortly after, and I have his full statement. Do you think he is telling the truth? Is he just an angry neighbor trying to get back at the elderly woman? He could be misleading, but I doubt it. The story sounds believable. He even offered to take a lie detector test. He may have been where he said he was and seen what he described. I made it clear that if we move forward based on his statement and press charges against Sutton, finding out later that he lied would lead to serious troubles for him. I sat quietly for a few minutes. Okay, you need to get his testimony. Record it. I want a clear record just in case something happens to him. Make sure he takes the lie detector test. Then I want you to encourage him to move and stay in touch with us so we can help him find a safe place in Jacksonville. I'll arrange security for him here. If he resists, let him know that we can keep him safe as a material witness, which would be better than a jail cell. I want your sheriff to assign someone to watch Sutton closely. I don't want him leaving town without us knowing where he goes. If you need extra money for overtime, we can help. Do you think he would go after Belle? Do you think a person who could hurt their own family would hesitate to get rid of an old man trying to testify against him? Anyway, bring him here for questioning. If this goes well, we should decide quickly before the old man is gone. Is he okay? He's okay, but he's 79, has a weak heart, diabetes, and a pacemaker. It's unclear how much longer he can hold on if Sutton's trial doesn't happen soon. All right, we need to move fast. After thanking Coleman again, I thought about whether the risks were worth it. We still didn't have solid proof no clothes tied to the crime were found in Sutton's house, no clear evidence of wrongdoing, and no weapon was discovered. Neither he nor his mother's car had been seen in Jacksonville. Now we seemed to have a strong eyewitness ready to testify against him, but he also had a mother who would support him. Who would the jury believe? This felt riskier than before. I knew that we would only have one shot at this. If I took him to trial and he was found not guilty, and later we found clear proof against him, he would be free for good. Prosecuting him for civil rights violations was also limited to federal courts. But we needed to get ready. I spent the next 3 hours on the phone, and by 2 p.m. I realized I was hungry. I thought about asking Susie to order something, but then I decided to get out and stretch my legs instead. I walked across the street to a small sandwich shop that surprisingly had great salads, and I ordered one with grilled chicken. There was a time I would have turned my nose up at grilled chicken, but I had changed. I was sitting at a counter by the big front window when I noticed someone standing behind me. I turned to see a police officer with his hand near his holster. "Officer Smith, how can I help you?" He was about 5'10", lean but strong. He had that typical cop stare, looking straight at me while being aware of everything around us. "Can we talk for a minute, Maitland?" "I think your sheriff would prefer you call me Mr. Maitland. No one died and made you an authority. It's Mr. Edwards, but you're just an assistant." "Did no one teach you how to make friends and influence people, how to handle prosecutors?" "I do just fine, except when they make things hard for me." "I see you're back in uniform. What's your problem?" "I'm back in uniform, but that possible homicide charge is still hanging over me. You've never come back with a decision on my case, just told the sheriff that it's still pending. You gave me my street job back, but the weight of this situation is still on my shoulders. Those families have taken legal action against me for $1 million, and I can't talk about that while the criminal case is still open." He moved closer and spoke in a low voice that only I could hear. "Melanie left me. She couldn't handle the stress of never knowing if I would be charged, and her family blamed her for being with me. She couldn't stand by me because your office hasn't cleared the case. One day she just said she couldn't take it anymore and left." He leaned in and gave me a look filled with disdain. "Is that true, Maitland? You lost your partner and now you're making my life harder?" I stepped back and studied his tense, quiet face. "I wouldn't say someone from Jacksonville's police is being unfair, but did you really think you could come in here, insult me, and get a response that would help you? Did you think another assistant would buckle under pressure and clear you for such a serious matter? I'm sorry your partner left. I'm sorry about the tragic loss of 3 people. I'm sorry your career has been on hold for over 6 months. I'm sorry you might have to face a grand jury. I'm sorry your promising career in law enforcement could be affected. But that is out of my reach. If I take this to the grand jury, it's up to them to decide your future. However, Sean, it's clear that this situation depends on you. You used your department firearm and took the lives of two individuals. One of them was your partner's spouse. They may have entered your home uninvited, but from what I know, they were not the best people to confront. You have served as an officer for 7 years and have experience in tough situations. You have been recognized for your bravery and service. Others might have reacted differently, but you did not seem panicked. You could have chosen not to confront one or two of them and perhaps avoided this tragic outcome. With the backing of the sheriff's office and the community, you could have faced little to no consequences. A hearing would have cleared you, allowing you to continue both your job and personal life. But you could not let one person go, could you? They chose to enter your home, causing distress, and I imagine they used hurtful words during the encounter. In your anger, you may have felt your role as an officer justified your choices. You used deadly force against the husband and brother, and a third brother ran away. Instead of letting him escape, you shot him. When you found no weapons on them, you placed a firearm next to the third brother that no one could trace. This raises serious questions, Sean. We have found no evidence that they were armed. Had they come at you with simple tools, that would have made sense. But guns and a weapon without a clear history? That's worrisome. This whole situation doesn't make sense. Your fellow officers can see it too. The sheriff, my boss, and even local leaders know about this. The only reason this hasn't gotten worse is because you are a respected officer. But that won't be enough, Sean. I'm busy right now. But in the next few weeks, I will tell the sheriff and my boss that I plan to take this matter to the grand jury. After that, it will be up to them to decide how to handle your case. You will face the grand jury, and nothing will stop you from getting there. His hand dropped a bit, and I briefly wondered if he would act foolishly in front of witnesses, including a few undercover detectives. You do that, and it would be the biggest mistake you've ever made, Maitland. You're not so important that you can't be outsmarted by my side and the sheriff. Edwards is a politician. When the pressure builds up, he'll turn against you. And no matter what happens, I won't forget this. I'll be watching you, and one day I'll have my chance. Just wait. He walked away. I finished my salad and looked at the detectives sitting at the back of the sandwich shop. They seemed really interested in something else. It didn't surprise me. Cops always look out for each other. I had just stepped back into my office when the phone rang. Hi, Dad. Hi, BJ. What's going on? Listen, Dad, I know you said you didn't want to do anything for your birthday, but Kelly, Mom, and I talked. We really want to take you out Saturday night for a quiet dinner. Just a couple hours. How about it? BJ, I appreciate you, your sister, and your mom, but I'm in the middle of 2 big cases right now. You know how it gets when I'm busy. I don't have time to see or talk to anyone. But I promise in 2 weeks, around mid-September, we'll plan something nice. But you're going to be working late Saturday night, aren't you? Probably, and if not, I'll be resting at my condo. I'm really worn out. I might just go to bed early. I wouldn't be good company. It'd be better to celebrate when I can enjoy it more. Please, let's do it that way. Okay, I'll let Kelly and Mom know, but it's a promise that in 2 weeks, at the latest, we're going out for your birthday, right? I promise. It was after 5:30 and I was in the middle of 3 phone calls when Susie buzzed me and I put everyone on hold. That lady is on the phone again. Oh, I'll take it. Aline, I'm sorry. I just realized it's almost 6 p.m. I meant to. Oh dear. I said I wasn't going to say those words again. Give me 15 minutes to clean up and I'll be out of here. I'll meet you back at the condo. It's all right, Bill, I understand. You think that's the first time I've heard that? I'm back at the condo. I went for a walk today. That gives me time to get ready for you. I tried my best, but it was 7 p.m. before I finally got out the door, and nearly 7:30 when I arrived. I could have called her from the condo phone, but I wanted to see her face when I said I was sorry. No one could be that unaware all the time. She was truly beautiful, her energy lighting up the room as I walked in. Soon we were lying together, discussing where we might eat. I opened my eyes and found her comfortably next to me, and I felt a sense of calm. Oh, Aline, I'm such a fool. I fell asleep. I really am out of practice, but you don't have to. Shh, she said softly, bringing me back to the moment. We shared laughs and warmth, enjoying our connection. You deserve so much more than this, I said, looking at her. You're no young person, she teased with a smile. An old soul needs rest. You had a long night, and I know you're busy. I pulled her close and shared a light kiss. Not too old, I hope. Want to go out now? We can grab a bite, maybe visit a club, then come back and enjoy our time together. She nestled against me and whispered, "You're not old. You're human. You had a long day filled with responsibilities, yet you're still here with me. That shows a lot of strength." She looked into my eyes directly. "I'd rather be lying here next to you, listening to you breathe, than eating in a restaurant or dancing. I came to be with you, not for entertainment. Do you understand?" "I understand. Yes, ma'am. Now go to sleep. You need your rest. We have a birthday to celebrate Saturday, and I want you ready for it." The next thing I remembered was waking at 4 a.m. I turned over to her side, feeling a deep connection. It was a warm, gentle exchange, full of caring. I felt fulfilled as we drifted back to sleep, knowing this was what I wanted. This was a strong bond, simple, comforting closeness. No fancy dates or distractions, just two people together, relaxed and drifting in and out of sleep. How much more ordinary could it be? I realized it was what I needed, what I wanted. Before things had become complicated, I shared this with Debbie. I hadn't realized until now how much I missed it. And then I was asleep again. Friday, September 2nd, 2005, 4 p.m. She woke from the dream, gasping. Teller held her tightly until she calmed down. He had prepared her, and as he expected, he hadn't needed to fix anything this time. Debbie breathed heavily, but she didn't seem to be in severe distress. "Oh!" He gently leaned her back against the couch. Tears streamed down her face as she caught her breath. After a moment, she wiped her tears away and looked at him. "Doctor." "How are you feeling, Debbie?" "I feel awful. Disgusted. I can still smell that place." He remained quiet, watching her closely. "I saw their faces this time, clearly. Last time it was all blurry, but now I could point them out if I needed to." Her hands clenched into fists. "Those awful people, if I ever find them, I'd—" "What else?" I saw the place more clearly. It was a large restaurant or hotel bathroom. There were several stalls and urinals. The floor had been clean, but then everything just became a mess. He stayed silent, listening. "I went through things I shouldn't have." She gave him a small, embarrassed smile. "I guess most people know what that kind of experience is like." He leaned in a little, meeting her eyes. "Do you realize how this time was different from the last?" "What do you mean?" "Think back to the last time. When you came back, how did you react?" She seemed surprised. "I was really overwhelmed. Not as bad as the first time, thanks to you, but I still felt like I might lose control." "So you had a strong reaction to the memory of what happened?" "Yes, I did." "And now—" She rubbed her face. "I guess I'm not as shaken as I was before." "Remember, you were panicked last time. This time you were upset when you woke up, but you calmed down quickly. Did you notice?" "Yes, but why? The memory is even clearer now. Shouldn't it be worse?" "Not necessarily." He explained. "The first time was deeply upsetting and the second was still hard. Nightmares can shake you, leaving you unsure of exactly what you're afraid of. Now that you're recalling things more clearly, they're losing their grip on you." She sat up and adjusted her skirt. "Why isn't it affecting me the same way? It was so horrible. I told you I liked confident people, but not in that way. Not forcefully. It's hard to process something like that even from a distance, but what? There's a reason it's losing its power over you, Debbie. You understand it even if you can't fully explain it yet." "I'm not sure. I feel it. But why doesn't it bother me as much? Think about it." She focused on the pattern on the coffee table, trying to sort through her thoughts. Some things were clear, but something still felt off. "I don't know, Doctor. Something just doesn't feel right." He gently took her hand and looked into her eyes. "Can you describe the people involved?" "One had dark hair, tall, maybe 6'1" or 2, slender. Another was shorter with thinning light brown hair. They all wore business suits. The third one was blonde and a bit heavier." "How old did they seem?" "Late 20s, early 30s. Not old." "They weren't teens?" "No." "Okay, can you tell me what happened before you went to the restroom with them?" She tried to remember how it all started, but nothing stood out. The memory began and ended in the restroom. I can't remember. That doesn't surprise me. What do you mean? Do you recall how they talked to you during the incident? She thought hard, recalling the hurtful words. Was there anything strange about that? She looked at him, starting to understand. They were older than they seemed, but they spoke to me like I was much older too. It was odd. If this happened a while back and you mentioned your marriage started to fall apart around then, you must have been in your mid to late 30s. He looked at her with genuine interest. I'm not just trying to flatter you. You are an attractive woman, and you don't look your age. The men you mentioned seem to be about your age, too. They wouldn't talk about you like that unless I seemed older to them. He smiled gently. And since you are not older than them, that means... She shook her head, unable to understand what she had just said. How can a memory feel so real but be a false one? Was it just a dream or a nightmare? It was a memory, but not in a usual sense. I don't get it. People often remember where they were during big events, even if they weren't there. They can picture it in vivid detail later on and really believe they witnessed it. It's a false memory built from what they know and the wish to have been a part of it? Exactly. But in your case, how does that fit here? I'm not sure yet, but something feels off. A real memory is often more detailed. Your memory is clear, but lacks important parts. You can't remember what happened before or after. It's like it's missing context. With time, more details usually come back. But you still know more about what happened and who was involved than someone who wasn't there could know. She shook her head again. I still don't get it. I was there, but I wasn't. If I'm right, you were present. You saw what happened or the aftermath, but you weren't the one directly affected. It must have been someone very important to you to create such strong feelings about this situation, and it likely involved an older woman. Does that match anyone you know? Clarice, my Aunt Clarice. That was my guess. I think something happened to her, and you were either nearby or somehow part of it. Over time, especially after she passed away, it probably stayed in your mind and turned into a dreamlike memory. They shared glances of understanding. Debbie listened to the steady sound of the grandfather clock and thought about her aunt. But there's something more, Debbie. Something that is unclear at the moment. A lot of this doesn't add up, Doctor, but at least I'm not feeling upset or sick. What do you mean? The memory you pushed away has been in your mind since before your aunt died. What brought it back? She didn't need time to think. The divorce. That fits. It remained in your mind until your divorce was finalized, and then it surged back. So, not only does your ex stir up feelings of frustration, but the end of your marriage also sparked a memory of something very painful. She put her head in her hands. That doesn't make sense, Doctor. I can think of many things to criticize Bill about, but I would never link him to something like that. Why would I connect that memory with him or our divorce? He leaned back and stretched. I don't know, Debbie. That's the interesting part of psychiatry. There has to be a connection. We just haven't found it yet. She looked up at him and, to his surprise, smiled. What's with the smile? I just realized something, Doctor. I didn't betray him like I thought I had. I may have had my flaws as a wife, but I wasn't unfaithful. I didn't think I'd ever be able to face him again. Maybe now I can. Friday, September 2nd, 2005, 4 p.m. I stood at the door of the Duval County Jail booking office as a sheriff's vehicle pulled into the parking lot behind the jail entrance. It was a cruiser from Marion County. Coleman stepped out of the passenger seat, and while the driver moved to open the back door, he walked over to me with a big smile. Coleman wasn't very much taller than me, but his cowboy hat made him seem bigger. I had never seen a man wear a hat like that, and aside from that, Coleman was quite friendly. I figured he must have a bit of a chip on his shoulder. He smiled widely as he shook my hand firmly. I'm glad you took a chance, Bill. I was worried he might get away with this. The taller driver was helping a handcuffed man in shorts and a t-shirt out of the back of the car. We found him mowing the grass, Coleman said, laughing. He wanted to change clothes, but I told him he needed to get used to wearing a jail uniform since that would be his reality for some time. There was a lot of tension in the room. I almost hoped he would react angrily, and it seemed like he might. But just before he did, he noticed my presence and decided against it. Sutton was tall and lean, but looked strong. He seemed capable of doing a lot of damage if he wanted to. It would have been nice if he could calm down, but people like him never seemed to lose their temper when you wanted them to. Coleman's deputy brought him over to us. He looked down at me with that usual disdain some taller people have for those shorter than them. "Maitland, I see you finally found some courage. It was the old man's story that pushed you into filing charges, wasn't it? Why do you think it was Bell who told on you? What could he have said to convince us to charge you?" I thought he was smart enough to see through it. But if he showed that he knew about Bell seeing him leave and come back, he would be making things worse for himself. But he was too sharp for that. "I don't need to be a genius. You left me hanging for months without charges so I could clear my name. You just left me in a tough spot. And then the old man, who has had issues with my mother and me for years, comes back, and shortly after this officer arrests me. I figured he was behind it. You'll hear the full story soon, Mr. Sutton. But are you sure you wouldn't like to confess? It might help to share what you're feeling. It must be hard at night remembering what happened." "They said you caused so much pain that it was hard to understand. Even if you had some problems with her, how could you act like that against your own family?" He just looked at me without caring. "It might bother me if I had done it, but I'm innocent. I didn't hurt her after everything she did to me, and I didn't hurt that child. I have no idea who his father was, but it wasn't me. I hadn't been involved with her for months before everything happened." "That's interesting," I replied, looking deeply into his dark eyes. "I kept it private because I wanted it for the jury, but we got a DNA test and found your DNA through a court order. The baby boy you harmed was William Sutton, Jr." He didn't change his expression. "He was your son, Sutton. He likely would have had your eyes and features. No matter how you felt about her, he would still be your child. Did you really think she might have been unfaithful? Everything we found shows she stayed loyal to you. Does your mother know what happened to her grandson?" "I didn't hurt anyone," he said with a smile. "Do you think you have power over the truth, Maitland? Are you taking your press clippings seriously? All that talk about being an angel of justice? You're just a regular lawyer who I plan to make look bad after I win this case." He looked down and grinned. "Yeah, everybody knows your story, Maitland. Sad little guy. You couldn't keep your wife, so she left you for someone younger. I don't feel sorry for you. There's no way you can convict me without proof. You don't have fingerprints. You don't have blood. You don't have a weapon. Nobody saw me with her the night she died, and you won't find anyone who heard me talking to her, no matter what her friends say. I'm glad you're trying, though. I want to win this and move on with my life, a lot richer. Her family can't stop me from getting the money. We were still married when she passed." He stepped closer, and I felt the tension in the room grow. "In a few months, I'll be free, and you'll see. I'm going to enjoy my life, and maybe even meet your ex-wife." I kept calm, my gaze steady. "You can imagine what you want, but you'll never be free again. You'll spend the rest of your days in prison." He smirked. "See you in court, then." As he was taken away, a car drove into the parking lot. An elderly couple got out, the woman leaning on a cane as they approached. Her words were sharp. "Mr. Maitland, you will regret this. Mrs. Sutton, I was expecting you. It's understandable you want to support your son. You are trash, just like that woman. She deserved what happened to her." I just wish I could have understood. "You know her baby was your grandson? That child was no kin to me. I'm glad he's gone for good." I looked at her, and for once, I was at a loss for words. "I was 49, Mr. Maitland, when I had William. All the doctors told me to end my pregnancy. My husband, who is thankfully not here, tried to push me to do it too. But I stood my ground. It was hard, but I carried him to the end, and he survived. He has always been mine, and I have always been his. Someday we will be together again. Nothing can ever change that. Not someone like you." I could only stare at her, feeling some pity for the man who must have been part of her past. "Thank you, Mrs. Sutton. I felt a little compassion for you. No matter how troubled and unkind you've been, no matter that you're defending your son despite everything, I told myself you are a mother, and mothers share a special bond. But I can't feel any compassion for you anymore. You are the reason he has become who he is. You made him into the man he is today. If I could, I would want you to face the music with him." If she had something in her hands, I would have felt uneasy. But it's better this way, Mrs. Sutton. You're old, but strong. I believe you will be here long enough to see him pay for what he did. You'll get to see it, and if I can, I'll be there too. I want to see your expression when it's all over for him. I will be thinking about Sheila and her baby. I will think about what she experienced while he caused them harm. I hope he feels every bit of suffering as he leaves this world, and you feel some of that pain too. And then, I wish you find no comfort. I turned and walked away from her, feeling her eyes on me as I entered the jail. Saturday, September 3rd, 2005, 1 p.m. The beach curved gently to the right as the coastline drifted south, past St. Augustine. We stood on a quiet stretch of soft, white sand hidden behind stretch of land between St. Augustine and Marineland. A newly paved two-lane road was a few hundred feet away, but it felt like we were on a lonely island. 3 or 4 tall palm trees, damaged by storms in past years, stood like dark reminders against the bright sand and the clear blue ocean shaped by winds and waves over time. As the beach changed, they were left behind, memories of a wild landscape that I loved. I cherished Matanzas for its untouched beauty, with large rocks scattered in the sea. I remembered taking Debbie and the kids there when they were small, and those moments warmed my heart. Those trips were among the best times of my life. Aline looked down the beach. She wore shorts and a shirt over her swimsuit. We leaned against one of the tree trunks, enjoying the peacefulness around us. I wished we really were the only ones in the world. "It feels like a different world," she said, reaching out to me. "Thank you for bringing me here. It's not marked on any maps, but I've always thought it's one of the most special places along this coast. Only those who grew up here or visitors who discover it by chance know about it. This is something I could share that isn't found on any tour." We enjoyed each other's company, taking in the salty breeze from the ocean. There were plenty of things we could do, but nothing felt better than being there together, watching the waves roll onto the shore. Finally, I gave her a gentle nudge and helped her to her feet, and we walked along the sand, going through a small wooded area until we reached my Escalade parked on the quiet side of the road. "Where to now, my personal guide?" she asked, smiling. "A little history lesson, Miss Desjardins. Something from Europe that you might enjoy." It was only noon, and even in early September, the busy streets of St. Augustine were filled with cars and visitors from all around the world. I parked a few blocks from the Castillo de San Marcos, and we walked past restaurants and little shops selling sweets and souvenirs from the old city. The narrow streets were just wide enough for 2 small cars to pass each other. She stopped at a corner, looking both ways down the street. A quick expression crossed her face, but she quickly turned away and focused on the canopy of a nearby store. I let her stand there for a moment, sensing her heavy thoughts. I walked over and gently wrapped my arms around her shoulders to offer comfort. I allowed her to keep her face hidden because I knew what I would see if I made her look at me. This felt too much like her real life. Even though it was different today, it reminded me of France, Italy, and Belgium. I knew it brought back memories of other times, and I could guess who she was thinking about, the ones who had held her in their arms. After a bit, she wiped her face and, without looking back at me, said, "I'm sorry, I was just remembering how Andre looked when we took him to a small village on the Portuguese coast last fall. It looked like this, without the tourist shops. He ran along the beach, getting his new clothes dirty and causing a fuss for the fishermen working on their nets in the sun." She turned and rested her head against me. "I'm sorry. I really miss him." I didn't say anything. I just held her. It didn't matter that she was not being completely honest. She missed her son, and her husband, and her life, which was far from here. But I had made a choice. This was part of it all. No matter how much it hurt to know who she should have been with, I had agreed to take the bad with the good of having her here. We walked hand in hand to the Castillo de San Marcos, known to everyone in North Florida as the Old Fort. Its green grounds were filled with children and families enjoying picnics. We approached the entrance. I bought 2 tickets, and I led the way. I wasn't a professional guide, but I had visited so many times as a kid that I felt like I could do it well. I took her through the powder magazine, a dark room, the chapel, and the guard rooms. The walls felt close, and the coquina walls seemed colder than the underground space could explain. When I was a kid, I sometimes imagined that real spirits might be here. I thought about the short men in their unique armor. Their cold but lively eyes in paintings seemed to capture a spirit that lingered even after they were gone from illness or battle. I knew it was just my imagination, but there had been much sadness and loss in and around these strong walls. If any place in Northeast Florida had ghosts, the old fort would be it. As a teenager, after my first heartbreak with a girl who didn't notice the person I could be, I imagined a soldier getting sick, feeling alone when the woman he loved went back to Spain with someone else. As I grew older, I understood that the lovesick soldier would likely find comfort in new friendships, perhaps with people from different walks of life, brought together by chance. I became a bit cynical after seeing the love of my life walk away with someone else for the 10th time. He was tall enough to pat my head sweetly as he took her from me. We walked to a higher level where we could see the Bridge of Lions and Matanzas Harbor. The sun glistened on the wavy waters while a breezy fall storm approached. Soon the sky would be gray, but for now it was showing off Florida's beauty. I took Aline's hand and said, "Let's go down." We stepped onto the grassy slope leading from the fort to the street. "I need to do this," I said, and I started running. Holding her hand, she stumbled, but with her long legs, she quickly caught up to me. We ended up racing and laughing like kids, while spectators watched us with smiles. Just before reaching the edge of the grass, I fell to my knees and she came down with me. She laughed so hard she could barely talk, but managed to ask, "What was that all about?" I loved doing this since I was a kid. My friends and I would run down from the fort as fast as we could, avoiding traffic. Luckily, nobody drove faster than 15 miles an hour around here. "You're crazy," she said with a grin. "That's me, a wild guy." For a moment, I didn't feel the weight of my 42 years. It felt really nice. 3 hours later, I took a moment to catch my breath and gather my thoughts. I couldn't sense Philippe's presence anymore, like he had returned to wherever he came from. Aline lay back on the couch, looking calm. "Oh," she said after a while. "What time is our reservation at the top floor?" 7:30. We have 45 minutes. Plenty of time. Well, I need to get in and take a long bath and get some things done. I looked at her and she shrugged. "Wait and see." I leaned back on the couch and let go of her hand. The top floor is a restaurant on the 15th floor of the Barnett Bank building. It covers the entire floor and the windows give a view of all of Jacksonville below and around. Jacksonville, like much of Florida, is just a bit above sea level, so there's nothing blocking the view for miles. It's one of the most beautiful sights in the city, and I wanted to show it to Aline on my birthday. The food is quite good, especially for fans of steak and potatoes. I'm not a big steak fan, but it felt right for such a special birthday. As Aline stepped into the bathroom, my cell phone rang. I almost didn't check it, but it might be important. I saw the number and knew it had to be Kelly. I couldn't imagine Debbie calling on a Saturday night. "Dad, hi." "Hey, Kelly, what are you up to?" "BJ and I wanted to check in again. We're both home tonight and wanted to see if you might change your mind and go out for your birthday." I paused for a moment and then said, "I'm sorry, sweetie. I know I keep saying this, but I've been really busy with important work this week. I'm at the condo watching a movie and I'll probably be asleep before 9. I wouldn't want to fall asleep while we're out. The date's just a number. Give me a couple of weeks and we'll go out and do something nice, something you all will enjoy. Can we plan for another time?" "Okay, I'll find something to do tonight. You should get some rest now. This is a big moment for you. Don't mention it too much. I promise I'll reach out when things calm down and set up a nice outing." Suddenly, something crossed my mind and I spoke before I could stop myself. My voice dropped, even though Aline couldn't hear over the running water. "We can all get together, you, your brother, your grandparents. Even tell your mother she's welcome if she wants to join us for dinner. I promise a truce. We'll need to figure out how to be around each other. Someday." The other thoughts in my head stayed silent. It would be the first time in nearly 20 years that I celebrated my birthday without her. I knew that was how it was now, but it hit me hard all over again. I was in my apartment with a wonderful woman, yet I felt the absence of my ex-wife. "I'll let her know, Dad. I think she might appreciate that." "Okay, I'll let you go. Get some rest." I ended the call and sat on the couch wondering if I was making the right choice, but we would have the rest of our lives together. I had less than 2 weeks with Aline, and that would probably have to last me for a while. How could I leave Aline by herself, keeping her a secret from my family while I went out for a birthday celebration? On the other hand, introducing Aline to my kids as just a friend seemed tricky. Maybe that would work in Europe, but not in Jacksonville, Florida. I shook my head just thinking about it. I called out to Aline, but she was listening to some French pop music in the bathroom, and I doubted she could hear me. I went to the closet and picked out a nice pair of slacks and a blue pullover. The top floor was fancy, but relaxed enough for a nice evening. I was putting on some black loafers when the doorbell rang. Who could be at my door on a Saturday evening? I wondered if something had gone wrong at the jail with Sutton, or maybe it was something else. But the phone hadn't shown any missed calls. The moment felt strange, as if I were in a different world. I approached the door and peeked through the peephole. Even though it wasn't a bad neighborhood, it was still downtown, so I wasn't going to just open the door. What I saw took a moment to sink in. Before I could react, a key turned in the lock, and I instinctively stepped back as the door opened. Surprise. Hi, Dad. Dad, I thought. Bill, happy birthday, son. They stood there looking at me in my slacks, pullover, and shoes, and I stared back in shock. Hi, Kelly, BJ, Mom, Charles, Roy, Kathy, Clarice, Ricky, Amy. I couldn't believe it, but I added, Debbie. At the front of the group were my son and daughter, followed by my mother, stepfather, ex-in-laws, ex-sister-in-law, and her kids. And my ex-wife. What was happening? Dad, what? I thought. Yeah, Dad, Kelly said. You said you were going to bed. We came by to surprise you and take you out for a birthday dinner. Yes, son, my mother added, moving in with her usual purpose. We thought we would have to coax you out, but it looks like you were already ready. Where were you going, and why didn't you tell us? I didn't realize she was guiding me into my own condo until I found myself past the couch, and the whole group had followed me inside. Boy, this place is small, Ricky commented, looking around. Shh, baby, no, Clarice whispered. Suddenly, a sound behind me made my heart drop. The bathroom door opened, and the soft sound of a familiar song filled the air. As I turned slowly, almost like in a dream, I heard the words, You know I'm such a fool for you. You got me wrapped around your finger. Do you have to let it linger? Aline stepped out, her hair still wet from the shower, unaware of the crowd now filling the room. Time felt like it had stopped, but then reality hit me hard. I thought we might see how things were. I had only seen a person's jaw drop a few times in my life. Aline looked at me and then at everyone else, her voice fading away. Mommy, why is that lady here? In that moment, I could hear my heart racing, the hum of the air conditioner, and the soft breaths of several people in the quiet room. Then Aline backed away, covering herself as her eyes darted from one shocked face to another before she hurried back into the bathroom and shut the door loudly. Do you have to let it linger? The old joke about slowly I turned echoed in my mind as I faced my parents, the kids, and extended family. I couldn't quite read Charles's expression, but there was surprise and the start of a small smile on my mother's face. Shock and sadness were visible on Kathy and her family's faces. Kelly covered her mouth and looked at me in a way I had never seen before. I realized she was not looking at me as her dad anymore. She had never seen me with another woman before. BJ grinned and silently mouthed, Way to go, Dad. I met Debbie's gaze and couldn't tell what she was thinking. All I knew was how unexpectedly beautiful she still looked. Look, I know you guys were trying to surprise me. And we did, my mother said, glancing back at Debbie. You did. I'm really sorry, but it shocked you as much as it shocked me. Who? Started Kelly. Just a minute, I said, turning to open the bathroom door. Aline had her back to me, trying to gather herself and dry her hair. I'm sorry, this feels like a scene from a comedy. I had no clue they were coming. They thought they were planning a nice surprise. Your family, she said, turning to face me, her cheeks still a bit red. I feel so embarrassed. How can I face them now? I brushed her hair back gently. You put on that dress and some regular clothes and come out with me. You're just a friend from the cruise ship visiting. I don't have anything to be sorry for, and neither do you. We're both adults. I want to introduce you to my family." She smiled and said, "That's the first time I've seen her. I had no idea she's impressive." What is she doing here? I have no idea. I guess the kids convinced her to come, something about making peace. But I hope she feels bad seeing me with you. She deserves it and more. I started to open the bathroom door and added, "And be sure to wear the fleur-de-lis." When I stepped out, everyone was gathered in the space between the kitchen and the small living room. Debbie stood between Kelly and BJ up front. "Who is she, Dad?" Kelly asked again. "Her name is Aline Desjardins. She was part of the crew on the French ship I took a cruise on, the Bonne Chance. We got to know each other during the trip. She has 2 weeks off from the ship and she chose to be my guest here." BJ just grinned and gave me a playful gesture. I returned it. "Why didn't you just tell us you had plans?" my mother asked. "It wouldn't have hurt my feelings. We could have met at another time, and you could have spent time with her without us crowding your place." "I wasn't hiding it on purpose, Mom. I've been busy working and trying to spend moments with Aline. She's only here for a short time, and I thought it would be tricky to introduce her and explain everything. I didn't expect everyone to show up. We were just going to grab a bite." Clarice rolled her eyes and smiled, seeming to enjoy her sister's embarrassment. Debbie spoke for the first time. "She's very lovely, Bill. I'm glad you found a friend." "Thank you. Yes, she's very lovely, and I feel lucky." The bathroom door opened, and I turned to see Aline step out. She wore a classic black dress that looked elegant. The fleur-de-lis sparkled at the center. I stepped back and put my arm around her, facing my family. "Aline, this is my family. This is Debbie, my ex, Kelly, my daughter, and BJ, my son." When I finished, she turned to them. "I want to apologize. I'm embarrassed about how I look." My mother stepped around Debbie to take Aline's hand. She looked up and said, "You have nothing to apologize for. We arrived unexpectedly and can't expect you to be ready for us." "Thank you. You should be proud of your son. He is a well-respected lawyer. He is the kind of person other lawyers want to be like." "I am proud of him, and if he likes you, you must be someone special." She reached out and touched the fleur-de-lis. "That is so beautiful." Aline touched the stone. "Yes, it will always be very special to me because it was a gift from your son." "It is lovely. They can create amazing things with costume jewelry. It looks real." Debbie stepped a little closer to Aline. I wasn't holding my breath, but it felt like I should be. "Yes, they can, but this is real gold and a real diamond, but I would treasure it even if it were not. It is not what it is made of, but what it stands for. Romances on ships are nice. They are brief, but enjoyable. You were together for what, a week?" Bill was quick to move on. Bill was a good man, but he never acted this fast when we were together, and he never seemed as charming. Bill is a charming man, a very captivating man. Maybe after a long marriage, you just don't make him feel that captivating anymore. The two women, one warm and blonde and the other cool and brunette, looked at each other. Debbie glanced down for a moment. She focused on the fleur-de-lis before looking past Aline's shoulders. "I thought France was a more advanced place, better in medicine and technology." Aline just looked back. The question was clear in her eyes. "I would have thought that more French women would know about and use enhancements where nature has not been as generous. In today's world, no woman should have to feel unhappy with her looks." She took a deep breath, stressing her point with assurance. A small smile appeared on Aline's lips. "In France, women do have enhancements where needed. I had thought that in a country as great as this, more women would be aware of ways to improve their bodies. After all, today, no one has to feel uncomfortable with their shape." Her gaze shifted to Debbie, and then they shared a look. There was another pause, and then Debbie turned to me and said, "Happy birthday, Bill. I hope you have a great time tonight. And, Miss Desjardins, I hope you enjoy the rest of your stay in our country." She looked at Kelly and BJ and said, "If your dad wants to go out tonight, I want you to have fun. I'm not feeling well right now. I'm tired and I think I'll go home to rest." She brushed aside her mother's effort to speak and stared at Clarice for a moment, then shook her head and walked out of my home. I should have felt better at that moment than I did. I should have felt better than I had in the past 5 months since I first heard the words, "when we were married." I was with a lovely woman. I should have felt better. Life is funny sometimes. I'll be all right until the hard times come. My name is William Maitland. Today, I turn 42 years old. I have been divorced for nearly 2 months from Debbie, my wife of 18 years and friend for 20. She left me for someone younger 5 months ago. I have started a complicated relationship with a beautiful French woman named Aline. I know we can never have a future together because she is married to a man who was my friend, and she has a young son she will not leave. One day, my whole family surprised me at my new condo in downtown Jacksonville. They wanted to meet Aline, and I had to introduce her to my kids, ex-wife, mother, stepfather, ex-mother, and father-in-law, and my ex's lovely sister with her 2 small children. Everyone was getting ready to celebrate my 42nd birthday. I haven't told anyone that Aline is married and may return to her husband. She might have an open marriage, but I doubt my family would understand or accept it. Our relationship is ours alone, not for others to judge. I know I've made choices that may bring consequences, but they're mine to handle. The only person who isn't joining us is Debbie. She and Aline had a heated argument that everyone could see. No one was hurt, but the tension was real, and Debbie decided to leave. I don't know where she went or what she'll do while I enjoy time with my family and Aline. I can tell she feels hurt, especially in her pride. I understand that she never thought highly of me as a man, and I hadn't given her much reason to remember our last years fondly. I can only imagine how she felt seeing me with someone else. When she left my condo, I realized I had caused her pain. It's hard to understand why someone who doesn't care anymore could still feel hurt by seeing an ex move on. Despite everything, I felt a sense of compassion for her. I find it challenging to understand how people can stop caring for someone they once loved deeply. I know I could never live with her again or share our lives like we used to. Our 2 children always remind me of what we built together. Even with all these confusing feelings, I felt a strange sense of satisfaction in seeing her discomfort. She had never apologized for falling out of love with me, or for leaving me for someone younger. She did say she was sorry for hurting me, but that didn't feel the same. While I knew it wasn't right, I wanted her to sense what it was like to be replaced in someone's life. It wasn't truly the same, though. When she ended things, I was still very much in love with her. Now, I could only feel a slight satisfaction from her feeling hurt. Yet a part of me felt she needed to face some of that hurt. If there was any fairness in the universe, she should feel a small part of the hurt she had caused me. Saturday, September 3rd, 2005, 9:30 p.m. She knocked on the door of the Shire Apartments by Atlantic Boulevard. The buildings were next to the Arlington Expressway and looked like they belonged in a fairy tale, with some apartments shaped like the towers of a castle. He lived in one of those tower apartments. Even though his was on the ground floor instead of high up, he liked that it felt a bit old-fashioned. She wondered if he had someone with him. Usually she would have called, but tonight she felt it didn't matter. If he did have a visitor, he could always ask them to leave. She knocked again, and then a 3rd time. His car was parked outside. He might have gone out with friends, but she hoped he hadn't. He had to be home. The door finally opened, and there he was, wearing slacks and a simple shirt, with a bottle of beer in his hand. He was about to speak when she walked in, hugged him, and kissed him. After a moment, he kissed her back, and she felt happy being close to him. He gently moved her back, holding her by the shoulders. "I know this sounds silly, Deb, but what brings you here?" he asked. "Do I need to explain everything?" He smiled. "No, I think I get it, but I didn't know we had plans tonight. Did I miss something?" She smiled softly and brushed his hair back from his eyes. "No, this is just a surprise visit. Do you have something else to do tonight?" "No, no one else is around. Actually, I was working on a freelance article for Parade magazine that's due next Friday." "And I interrupted your work. Do you think—" He stood nearby as she approached him with a playful look. She leaned closer and whispered, "Is there any chance you might think about taking a break from your important article for a few hours?" He laughed and playfully pulled her to her feet, admiring her energy. "You really know how to make a good argument. Forget the article." He lifted her with ease, impressing her with his strength, and carried her toward the bed. She admired how he was strong but never showy. As they reached the bed, he set her down gently. "You came ready for a fun night, didn't you?" he said with a grin. She laughed and replied, "What do you mean by that?" They shared a light moment, the mood shifting as they enjoyed each other's company. Men and women bring different energies. His strength balanced her softness. He admired her for her beauty and grace, which went beyond just looks. She turned closer to him, and he noticed her change in mood. She gently placed her hands under his chin and pushed him away softly. He looked at her, confused. "You can be with me, Clint, but first—" She paused. "What is it?" he asked, puzzled. She looked at him with a thoughtful expression. "Tell me I'm beautiful." He hesitated for a moment, taken aback by her request. But he knew her words meant more than just a simple compliment. He propped himself up on his elbow and met her gaze. "All right," he began softly. "You are beautiful, not just in how you look, but also in the way you carry yourself. Your calm strength is captivating." Her eyes softened as she listened, appreciating his words. At that moment, the tension between them changed into something deeper, something meaningful. They shared a sense of understanding. He leaned in a bit closer and placed his hand gently on her shoulder, his fingers brushing lightly across her arm. "It's not just about attraction, Debbie. You have a smile that brightens up the room. Even if I couldn't be with you, that smile would make me want to stay by your side." His expression softened as he continued. "It's the way you present yourself, your kindness, your strength. People want to be better around you. That's why others help you, not expecting anything in return, but because you inspire them." She listened, touched by his words, and took his hand. "Clint, I don't want to talk about the past right now. Let's just focus on this moment." They shared a quiet understanding, and the tension in the room eased as they simply enjoyed being together. The connection between them felt strong, and they let the conversation flow easily without reminders of the past. "I'm not 20 anymore," she said with a light chuckle. She moved a little away from him, but then playfully engaged him, bringing back lighter memories. She touched his chest and arms gently, creating a warm connection. She teased him, and she could feel his energy returning. "You like that, huh? Let's see what else you enjoy," she said with a playful smile. She kept bringing warmth and affection into their conversation. Then she paused, maintaining a playful distance, looking up at him. "Do you want to continue like this or explore more?" He drew her closer, and soon they were sharing a warm bond. She made sure to keep the mood light and enjoyable, ensuring both felt comfortable. After some time, she rested her head against his chest, enjoying the closeness and aware that everyone has their own ways of feeling close to someone. It was a quirky thing about her that she found interesting, but she chose not to think too much about it. They stayed there for a while until they found a comfortable routine again. After a moment, Clint asked, "Would you like something to drink? I have coffee and some pastries in the kitchen if you're hungry." "Coffee would be nice. No pastries, though. I need to watch what I eat." "Can I help with that?" She playfully swatted at him. A little while later, they were sitting up, sipping hot coffee together. Clint had brought out a treat, which made them both smile. As they chatted about simple things, Clint asked, "So, what's happening with Bill?" "Please, Clint, let's not talk about that." "I just want you to know it's okay, Debbie. You were married until recently. Most people take a couple of years to sort things out. I loved my wife for 5 years after she passed, and it hurt." "You think I'm like that too, don't you?" she said, turning away to place her coffee on the side table, wondering if this was a mistake. Before she could leave the bed, he gently touched her shoulder, pulling her back a little. She turned away, but didn't pull away from him either. "That's how you see yourself, isn't it? Yes, you made mistakes. But it takes two to end a marriage. Bill is a good guy, but from what you've shared, he wasn't the best partner. No matter what happened, it's over now. You have a new job, you're meeting new people, and if Bill hasn't found someone new yet, he will. He's not old, even if he thinks he is. He has an important job and is starting to get recognized. Trust me, women will notice him." He paused for a moment and then placed his hands on her shoulders. "He has, hasn't he? That's why you came here tonight. I thought it was for something else. This might be your way of moving on. Even if he doesn't know, you're trying to step into a new chapter." "Her name is Aline. Aline of all names. It's strange because she works on a cruise ship." Clint's voice was calm. "You had Doug. You have me. And maybe other people too. He's only with one person. Why does that bother you so much? It's just you, Clint. No casual meetings, no random dates, just you. Do you believe me? If that's what you say, Deb, I believe you. We're not tied down. You have no reason to mislead me. I think the word is, he probably has had other relationships. I'm not surprised. Since he got in shape and changed his look, I knew someone would notice him. But why her? What makes this Aline special? Because, she took a deep breath, she's beautiful and carries herself with confidence. Standing next to her, I felt out of place. She may not have the same features, but she looks good. I felt heavier and older next to her. And she looks at me differently. She turned to face him. Other women look at me with jealousy or disapproval, thinking I'm a problem, but not like her. I didn't threaten her at all. She acted like she was better than me and made it clear that she was with Bill now. Clint shook his head. She walked out in front of your whole family? It's a long story. They pretended it was a mistake, but I know she planned it. She showed no signs of feeling unsure about herself. Every guy in the room was surprised. I know it. And what could I say? Everyone knows about me and Doug. I had to hold back any comments I might have made about how she acted. I can see that would be hard, but you knew he would find someone else. He found a nice woman this time. He did it before. What's different about this? She leaned in and rested her head against his shoulder. He couldn't see her eyes. This might sound silly, but it was the way he looked at her. How? I know that look, Clint. It was the same way he looked at me. Even after everything went wrong when he was hurt, I could tell he still cared for me when he looked my way. He was looking at her like that, and it drove me wild. He felt her tears on his shoulder. What kind of awful person am I? I didn't love him and I went to another man. I even liked it that he still thought about me. And now that I see he cares for someone else, it hurts. He held her until the tears stopped and then gently pushed her away. He wiped her tears. You're a human being, Deb. You're a good person, but you're still just human. You did what you thought was right at that time, and now you're having second thoughts. No. Yes, you're having second thoughts. I don't mean you'll go back to him, but I told you before that I think you moved too quickly. You got involved with another man before you finished things with Bill. Ideally, you should have gotten a divorce or taken a break, maybe even gone for counseling. That way, if things fell apart, you could have chosen your next steps without all these problems. And now, you have difficulties, and it might be tough to deal with them. Tough? There's no way we will get back together. There are things I'm trying to figure out in my head, but he still makes me angry sometimes. He would never want to be with me again. Don't ask. He just won't. And anyway, how long did it take you to get over your ex-wife? She sat back and looked into his eyes and saw the answer to her question. Oh, right. She passed away 20 years ago. And you never remarried. Have you ever been serious about another woman? Talk about being stuck on someone. Sunday, September 4th, 2005, 5 p.m. We stopped at the Columbia on A1A south of St. Augustine. I've always enjoyed their paella, and I found out that Aline liked it too. I grew up in a small town near Marseille, she told me. Just the smell of seafood paella makes my mouth water. They serve a great seafood paella here. I also love their sangria. I'll get a pitcher of the real stuff and a couple of glasses without alcohol for me because I can't afford a ticket for drinking and driving. She leaned closer and asked, Are you trying to make me feel relaxed? Well, that wouldn't be a bad idea. Why? You'll have fun whether I'm relaxed or not. I enjoy being around easygoing people. Don't get me started, or I might have to guide us back here unless you can find a spot on the beach. I looked at her. She wore a blue skirt and a gold top that showed off her shape without revealing too much. She was slim and casual, and I wondered for the 1,000th time how I ended up with her. It was just luck that had led me to Debbie, and again it was coincidence that brought Aline to me. I don't know if someone up there likes me or not. We enjoyed 2 plates of paella, which was as good as I remembered. It had been a couple of years since I'd been here. As usual, Debbie wanted the paella with chicken and pork. For someone smart, she preferred traditional dishes and was hesitant to try anything new. Maybe our different tastes in food were a sign of the growing distance between us, which eventually led to our divorce. Aline was lively, laughing and playfully leaning against me as we walked out. It was nearly 9:30 p.m., and I figured we would head back to the condo and find a quiet place to relax. As we crossed the small parking lot, her phone started ringing with a familiar tune. We both stopped and looked at it. I didn't need to check the number. She hadn't received any calls since arriving in Jacksonville. She looked at me and answered the call without turning away. A quick chat in French followed. I could only catch a few words. I knew she said hello in French, and Philippe's name stood out. There were questions, and she responded with a smile that tugged at my heart. Then there was a pause, and I heard Jacksonville and Bill Maitland. The talk went on for a bit, and then she handed me the phone. As she did so, she mouthed the words, "He knows." I wasn't sure how much he knew, so I figured he just knew that Aline was on vacation in Jacksonville and I was showing her around. It was naive to think he wasn't keeping tabs on where his wife was. That was how I decided to approach it. "Hello, my friend." "Hello, Philippe. How have you been?" "You know how it goes," he replied in almost perfectly clear English. "Evil never rests. Life certainly has its challenges that we need to recognize." "Am I really famous over there?" He laughed, a warm chuckle that brought back memories of our fun nights out, where he had a way of making friends easily. "You're famous everywhere, Bill. Thanks to the internet, anything can happen. I heard about the killer granny case. That took a lot of courage on your part. I may have doubted you before, but I realized you shouldn't be underestimated." "It's all about public relations, Philippe. Just a mix of luck and timing. I'm still the same guy I was when we were young prosecutors enjoying nights out." He laughed again. "We had some great times. I wish we had crossed paths again since then." "Me too, Philippe. I appreciated you sending me updates. It took you a whole year, but you were able to catch those criminals. It's a shame the main person decided to avoid facing justice instead of going to trial." "That actually worked out well. We both know it would have been tough to get a conviction. There were many connections between him and the criminals. His actions saved the state a lot of time and effort." I believed then, as I do now, that the wealthy person profiting from the suffering of others had not acted alone. Philippe had never clearly stated in his report, which he'd emailed me, that he took care of the man, but it was clear if you looked closely. From hints I picked up from various sources, I sensed that Philippe had some ties to people who were not very trustworthy. I had a feeling he had used some of those connections over the years. When Aline decided to wait for me to bring Andre back to Paris, I thought she would stay at the hotel or in Miami, he said kindly. "But I found out she had left the ship. I was surprised to hear she was staying in Jacksonville, near where my American friend lives." I didn't reply. "I haven't kept up with what you've been doing, but when I learned about Aline in Jacksonville, I thought of you and made some inquiries. I heard about your troubles. I was sorry to learn about your divorce. I remember the picture you showed me of your Debbie. She was a beautiful woman. I stayed quiet. I know you cared for her deeply. It showed in every conversation we had about your life in America. Remember that second night we went to that bar near the Seine? Lily, the bartender, seemed really interested in you. She always liked Americans, probably because of your accent. She made her feelings clear, but you never reacted." He laughed again. "She was quite upset with you when I talked to her the next morning. You hurt her feelings. I told her that you loved your wife and that Americans see relationships differently than we do in France. You tend to be more reserved compared to many French people. I was not in a good place when I met Aline, Philippe. If she did not tell you, I was really struggling. Debbie leaving me hurt a lot. My time on the Bon Chance and Aline's friendship helped me find my balance again. I can never thank her enough. You are luckier than you know to have her in your life." "I know I am, my friend. It helps to be reminded. Sometimes a married man forgets what he has until he sees it through another person's eyes. She cares about you a lot, you know." "I hope so." "Really. When I asked her just now, she shared how you met on the Bon Chance and that you offered to show her around your city. She said you have been very kind with your time, taking her to restaurants and making sure she is having fun. I expected nothing less from you, my friend, but I am thankful." "It has been my pleasure, Philippe. I can honestly say I've enjoyed every minute I spent with her, and since my divorce I have more time to show her my hometown. Thank you, Bill. When we are apart because of our jobs, it can be worrisome. It is hard to keep a marriage strong. When she is with you, I know she is safe, and that you would not do anything to harm our friendship because I know you are not that kind of man. You know I consider you a friend, Philippe. I would treat your marriage with the same respect that I know you give it." There was a long silence on his end. Finally, he said, "I am back in Paris now with our son, Bill. I can't wait for Aline to return. I have missed her. I hope that soon you can come to visit us in Paris. You have never seen the two of us together. I'm not sure if our marriage is like the one you had with Debbie, but I would like to show you what our life is like together. I hope you have a better marriage than Debbie and I had, and I hope yours lasts longer. Can I speak to Aline again, Bill? I wish you good luck if we do not talk again. And you too, Philippe. Here she is." I handed the phone back to her. Her face looked pale in the moonlight as she put the phone to her ear. I heard whispers in the dark, and then she said, "Andre." A smile appeared on her face as tears fell down her cheeks. Finally, she said, "I will always love you, Andre." The tears stopped as she talked a little longer with Philippe and then said, "I love you. Goodbye." When she hung up, the phone fell gently to her side. She looked over toward the ocean and swayed a bit. I stepped behind her and wrapped my arms around her. I could feel her quiet tears that she was trying to hold back. I didn't say anything because I wasn't sure what to say. We walked to the car without speaking and drove home to my apartment in silence. In bed, she clung to me, resting her head on my chest, her tears soaking my shirt. We just held each other until her breathing slowed and she fell asleep. I stared at the ceiling until morning. Tuesday, September 6, 2005, 3 p.m. I entered Sheriff Knight's office. Knight was a tall man, around 6 feet 1 inch, with sandy-colored hair and in his 50s. He had managed to stay fit over the years. He looked good, except for some noticeable acne from his teenage years. This made him seem more friendly, which he used to his advantage when he ran for sheriff, replacing the previous sheriff who had been in charge for 20 years. We had always gotten along, and I tried to keep on his good side, although today I wasn't sure how that would go. He stood up from behind his desk and came over to shake my hand. "Hi, Bill. Thanks for coming to talk with me today." I smiled and said, "Is there a hidden message in that, Sheriff? But I'm never too busy to speak with you, the head of law enforcement around here." He laughed and replied, "I might need to prepare myself because things are getting pretty tricky. I heard you weren't always the easiest to talk to." I smiled back and said, "It's not about being hard to talk to. You're important to our community, and we can't do much without your support. I'm always ready to meet with you or anyone from your team. We are on the same side. Most of the time." "I thought it was always, Sheriff. What do you want to discuss?" "You know who I'm talking about, Bill. Sean Smith. We share the same goal there. We want to make sure that police officers follow the same laws and are judged like everyone else in situations where lives are affected." He leaned against his desk. "Sometimes it seems like you lawyers are from another world because you don't sound like ordinary folks. How do you say something that sounds so reasonable but can be a bit misleading?" "I'm not sure I understand what you mean, Sheriff Knight." "That sounds good, Bill. Officers should be treated like everyone else. But we know that's not completely true. Each officer is held to a higher standard than most. My team has to make quick decisions that can change lives, and later, people in suits who haven't experienced those moments judge whether those choices were right. That's why we respect police officers and offer good pay and benefits, even if we sometimes overlook certain actions that could lead to serious consequences for others." I took a seat in one of the chairs in front of his desk and leaned back comfortably. "Don't try to make me look like I'm against law enforcement, Sheriff. You've worked with me since you took office. I have always supported your department. You won't find a stronger advocate for police than me in my office because I understand how important your work is. It doesn't matter how good we are at dealing with criminals. Your team has to catch them first and hopefully protect innocent people." But Sean Smith is a good officer. He shouldn't have faced scrutiny for so long. He was allowed to come back to work, but without proper approval, he's under pressure from aggressive lawyers working for the Roper family who want accountability. And everyone around him knows he could still face serious issues. Other officers are nervous about being seen with him because they fear it might look bad on them. Sheriff, I know he's a good officer. Sadly, he made a serious mistake and shot someone and then hid evidence to avoid facing the consequences. Knight shook his head and stood behind his desk, looking deep in thought. Do you really think that? Yes, unfortunately I do. Those people might have put that gun there themselves. It was found in the truck where Artie Roper was headed when Smith shot him. Just because there isn't proof doesn't mean the Ropers didn't put it there. You know, just as I do, that there are many untraceable guns around in this city and others across the country. The Ropers might have brought that weapon. And Artie Roper walks into the home of an officer with just clubs, leaving a gun behind in his truck. I know they weren't the smartest group. But do you really think anyone is that foolish? Don't ask me how clueless criminals can be. I could share stories for hours about the misguided people I've met in my 20 years on the job. They aren't exactly clever. Anyway, I'll agree that the Ropers weren't cold-hearted criminals. I believe they wanted to break into the house when Smith was sleeping, hoping to confront him before he realized what was happening. He was a black man in a tricky situation with a white man's wife. I don't think they meant any real harm, but I suspect the Ropers might have brought the gun just in case. And when Smith resisted, Artie panicked and tried to run. Smith followed him out. He had no idea what the Ropers had planned. I didn't expect him to just stand by when 3 men suddenly came into his home at night and let Artie get away. Officers aren't trained to let criminals target them. If you think your life is in danger, you need to protect yourself. That's what I would do. There's an old saying, it's better to be judged by 12 than carried by 6. I see your point, Sheriff, and you could be right. But I have my own beliefs that I owe to Art Roper and the community. I'm going to take Smith and the situation to the grand jury and let them decide if there's enough evidence for a trial. I'm not making this decision on my own. For the first time, Knight showed his frustration. That's not the right approach, Maitland. You know it. You plan to sway that grand jury as if it's just a formality. A good prosecutor can convince a grand jury to indict anyone if they want to. Grand jurors often don't have the independence you pretend they do. You want to put Smith on trial, and before this is over, he'll be treated unfairly. You're wrong, Sheriff. The worst part is that you know how this might end. At best, he'll be kept away from others for his safety for a few years. And if he does get out, he'll be very different. But he might not get out. Inmates usually don't welcome officers. He could face serious trouble in there. If you put him on trial, you might as well be deciding his fate. As he spoke, his voice got louder and it felt like he was raising it. I kept my tone calm. I understand that if he's found guilty, it will be a tough road, but there's no guarantee of a guilty verdict. Art Roper won't get a second chance. I trust jurors, Sheriff. They usually make the right choice. Not always, but most of the time. I'm not perfect. They could just as easily find him not guilty, let him walk away. He looked at me and shook his head. I warned him it was foolish to confront you in that sandwich shop. He thinks that's the reason you're after him. It was a mistake to bring your ex-wife into it, and he knows that. Everyone around the courthouse knows that is a sensitive issue. If I were you and lost someone like that, I'd feel upset too. But insulting you and touching a painful point is not enough reason to ruin a man's life. I'm asking you as one professional to another, don't take your anger out on Sean for something he didn't cause. He's not Doug Baker. I stood up. Whether you believe it or not, his comments in the shop have nothing to do with me deciding to take this case to the grand jury. I'm not doing it just because I was upset. I've waited too long to act, Sheriff. I haven't done him any favors by letting this go on. We need to find closure on this. That's why I'm taking the case to the grand jury in about 2 weeks. Knight just looked at me, his hands tight into fists. You might regret this choice, and I thought you were a good person. I am. If you go through with this, Maitland, your name will be seen badly by every officer in this county. No more help when you need it. You step out of line once, and I'll make sure you feel the results. I shrugged and started walking toward the door. I guess I'll have to live a perfect life then, Sheriff. It'll help knowing you're watching me. I'm calling Edwards. You may think you're in charge, but you're still an employee. He won't back you up on this, especially with what's on the line. Talk to him all you want, but if I were you, I'd suggest Sean find the best lawyer he can in the next couple of weeks. He's going to need a good one. As I walked out, I had a feeling I wouldn't be getting my holiday gift from the sheriff this year. Wednesday, September 7th, 2005, 11. M. Myra looked up at me with curiosity as I stopped at her desk. She wore a dress that was suitable for work, but it seemed a bit tight on her. I won't ask what's happening, Bill, but I can't remember him being this upset. The last part seemed more like a question than a statement, and I appreciated her gentle touch. I'm afraid this is where things get serious. Her expression showed she understood. I couldn't really explain. When I come back, Myra, I'll know if I still have a job here. She looked shocked. What, T? Bill, Mr. Maitland, you're not leaving, are you? This place wouldn't be the same without you. No, he'll have to choose that. I reached out and held one of her hands. If things go wrong and it gets busy, and I don't get a chance to talk to you again. I looked into her green eyes and felt our connection. I want you to know, Myra, that it's been great working with you. You're smart, capable, and truly kind. I never said it, but I have thought about you often over the years, and if I hadn't been committed, I would have liked to get to know you better. And it's funny how life works, because after holding those feelings for so long, I'm finally free from my past and find myself attracted to someone else. Life isn't fair. She took my hand and gently stroked my palm. It felt warm and comforting. I know this is serious, Bill, because you talk like you're saying goodbye as if you won't see me again. But just remember, whatever happens, I'll always be here for you. I squeezed her hand, said, "Wish me luck," and stepped inside to face what was next. Edwards was sitting back in his chair. Unlike other times, he didn't stand up to shake my hand, he just stared at me. For many called to his office, I imagine it would feel scary. But I had known him for a long time, and we shared a different kind of relationship. Maybe I just didn't care as much anymore. "Good morning, Bill." "I hope so." "That's all up to you." "No, really, it's your call. Can we get straight to the point? What did you want to discuss?" "Okay, let's do that. Knight is quite upset about how you've been dealing with Sean Smith." "I'm sorry the sheriff is upset. Is there anything else to discuss?" "Bill, you know Knight is usually calm, but he said he called you recently to find out when you would clear Smith. You mentioned you were thinking about a possible case against him." "That's right. That's what I told him. And when were you planning to share your thoughts on this? I thought we had an agreement that you would clear him so he could get back to his life and let this settle down." "Actually, Austin, we never had that agreement. I know you wanted that. You hinted at it, but you never clearly said I had to clear him. I thought you wanted me to handle this case like the others and use my best judgment. I do. But I don't see why you decided to take such a strong stance against this guy. It's true I want him cleared. The police union and most of the county's officers want him cleared too. Many community groups are ready to protest if he isn't released." He leaned forward, fingers steepled in front of him. He reminded me of a figure from classic films with a high forehead, dark brown eyes, a straight nose, and a strong chin. In today's media world, looking good matters, and he certainly did. Though his hair had almost turned white, it didn't make him look old. Instead, it gave him a dignified presence, like how public leaders often carry themselves. His smile was his greatest asset. He wasn't smiling now, but when he did, it brought a warmth that made everyone feel he was someone they could relate to. We both knew that if this situation escalated and he faced serious consequences, there would be lasting effects. The community wouldn't easily forget or forgive any perceived unfairness, and law enforcement might turn against me. This is a difficult time, especially with the upcoming elections. I plan to run as a conservative candidate focused on law and order, but I've always kept good relations with minority communities. It's a delicate balance. But how can I move forward next year if major groups accuse me of bias and officers think I'm punishing one of their own for protecting himself and his loved ones? I'll be in a tough position with both the law and order voters and the minority communities. What does that leave me with for support? I wonder, why have I put so much time and effort into helping Republican candidates, facing tough times at political events, and being away from my family to build my influence? What does it matter if someone I trusted works against my goals just as I'm getting close to the upcoming election? He was trying to stay calm, but I could hear his frustration. I listened as he shared his feelings. I thought we had a connection, not just as co-workers, but as people who care about what is right. We talked about many issues, and I hoped he saw my commitment. I have some pride. You can't go into public life without it. But I really believe I can help make a difference in Tallahassee. I'm sincere, and I have ideas on how to make the state better for everyone. The prison system needs serious changes, and we lose young people every day that we could help. Our drug laws are outdated, and as someone who supports law and order, I believe I can suggest practical changes that others might avoid. I have plans to improve our schools and to protect the environment while keeping businesses in the state. I think I could really make an impact, Bill, but I can't do anything if I don't get elected. Your actions against Smith could hurt my chances of winning. We looked at each other for a moment. I believe you would be a good governor, Austin. We've talked enough, and I know you have what it takes to do right in the governor's office. But what are you willing to give up to make that happen? I don't understand. Imagine if I invited Doug Baker, who caused trouble in my life and affected my marriage. If I had him here and told you that if you let me handle him, I would support your campaign for governor, and only we would know about this deal. Would you be okay with that? That doesn't make sense, Bill. What does this have to do with Sean Smith? You know that two men, Allen and Arnold Roper, who broke into Smith's home when he was there with someone, were shot in that house. Smith could say he was defending himself against Allen and Arnold. However, Arthur Roper, the third brother, was shot in the back while trying to get away. You and I both think Smith used evidence to create a story that cleared him. You think he created a misleading story. There's no proof. That's right. But I have enough evidence to convince a jury that Arthur wasn't armed that day, and neither were his brothers. They had a tire iron, a baseball bat, and a nightstick bought from a used police equipment store. There was nothing else that tied them together. I looked into Arthur's history. He had left high school early and found it hard to keep jobs, often getting fired. He had some minor run-ins with the law, mostly for being drunk in public and for a few fights, plus one serious charge for being involved in a robbery. He never carried a weapon. Arthur faced many challenges in life. He had never been married but had 2 children from a past relationship. He had an 80-year-old son named Pete and a 5-year-old daughter named Melanie with an ex-girlfriend who had several partners since then. They had met and parted ways many times in the last decade. Arthur struggled to manage his anger when he drank, and she had difficulties with her choices when drinking. She shared with me that she knew she couldn't stay with Art for long, but she said the best thing about him was that he cared for his kids. He couldn't always help with child support, but he gave them every extra dollar he had. He tried to be there for their birthdays and Christmas. They named the boy Pete after Art's grandfather. I glanced at my boss and could tell he got it. Art Roper had as much right to live as Doug Baker, or you, or me. He should have faced the music for his part in a break-in. But he didn't try to hurt Smith. He was running for his life when Smith acted against him. That's why I want to take Smith to the grand jury and let them decide if he should face a trial. There are some doubts about the situation, but Art Roper deserves to be heard by the grand jury. I stopped and looked around at the pictures of Edwards, state, and national leaders on the walls, along with the awards and trophies. He wasn't just a figurehead, he was a good man, but even good people can make mistakes. Art wasn't Doug Baker, but he lost his life. Are you ready to let Art Roper be the price for your success in the governor's mansion? Can you really be okay with that? Edwards shook his head, looking down, then back at me. Sean Smith is a good officer, Bill. You looked into him, and you know I'm right. He has received awards from the department many times in his 14 years. He saved an elderly man having a heart attack 3 years ago. He stepped into a dangerous situation during a robbery 6 years ago, stopping the threat after 2 workers had been injured. Even if I believe you, and he harmed Arthur Roper, there was a reason. 3 men broke into his home late at night, started attacking him, and tried to take the woman with him. He got his weapon and defended himself. At best, for your case, at best, he made a poor choice. He let his anger and fear take over, acting in a way that many people might. So, if you are a good officer or a good person for many years, you get a free pass for one mistake? He scratched his chin and replied, That angel of death idea is just for show. Remember, We are dealing with real people, both those harmed and those who cause harm. Sometimes we need to find a balance between justice and mercy. What kind of mercy can you give to Pete and Melanie? Can you bring their father back? He just shook his head. Don't do this, Bill. Don't be harsh on this one. There's too much on the line. Public trust is on the line. We both knew that the first thing people thought when they heard about this was about yet another case involving an officer. Smith is a respected officer, but last I checked, being respected doesn't mean you can escape attention for serious actions. I let the silence linger, feeling that we had said nearly all we could until we got to the heart of the matter. But I finally had to say something that might change everything for me. I'm sorry, Austin, I genuinely am. I tried to step away from this. I hesitated because I was afraid it would bring us here, so I tried to delay things. I should have taken this case to the grand jury a few weeks after it happened. But I knew how delicate it was. I think I thought that I valued this job too much to lose it. Edwards gave me a hard stare. What do you mean by that? I'm going to present it to the grand jury in 2 weeks. Let them look at it and see what happens. No. No? No, you aren't taking the case to the grand jury. You will write a report saying Smith did nothing wrong and that it was justified because of a home invasion. This time, I shook my head. That's not going to happen. He leaned forward over the desk. Bill, this is partly my responsibility. We made an agreement. I trusted your judgment. I always have. I've let you manage things, but I can't agree with you this time. I know you think I have personal reasons for this decision, but we just see it differently. I don't think it's right to ruin someone's life for something you only think he might have done. And the agreement is only valid while I say it is. You will follow my orders. I stood up. He leaned back, his eyes widening a bit. No, Austin, I'm not. I'm going to the grand jury as long as I'm the lead prosecutor. Right. As long as you're the lead prosecutor, think it over. I wish I could. I've thought about this for months, and I can't change my mind. He stood up. If you are set on this, I expect your resignation on my desk by the end of the day. You won't just be out as lead prosecutor. You will be out of this office, and don't think you'll get a job in any state attorney's office in Florida. But as you said, I'm sure you will find a position somewhere else. No, I won't resign. You can let me go. But there's something you should consider before making a choice you can't take back. What do you mean? Think about what you said earlier. I've been through a lot during my time here. People across this country, not just in Jacksonville, would be interested in a story about a prosecutor so focused on getting ahead that he would let a police officer escape responsibility for a sad event that took a father away from his 2 kids, just to keep law enforcement and the community happy. I saw his expression change as he realized the weight of my words. A tense smile appeared on his face. Are you trying to intimidate me? After all I've done for you? I gave you this office and let you be important for 6 years? And this is how you repay me? Who do you think would care about one case involving a police officer who may or may not have done something wrong? I managed a smile. Though I didn't want to do this, I respected him, but he was wrong on this point. How many people actually care about what Bill Maitland thinks? Probably not that many, but I believe the local media would find it interesting. But what about the angel of death? That would grab a lot of attention. It would at least give my case an audience. Remember, you wanted to promote the angel of death image. Well, you live by public opinion, and you risk being affected by it too. This is only one case, Bill. It will be forgotten. No one will care by next year. Austin, you enjoy reading. I know you've read books by John D. MacDonald, the one who created Travis McGee. There's a story I think it's A Flash of Green. It's about a guy who thinks he can get away with anything because he's important in his small town. But someone brings a scandal to light. They may walk away from the scandal, but they'll always be stuck in that small town. A line has been drawn, and as long as they stay within it, they're safe. But if they step outside, the scandal will resurface. They won't be able to rise to higher positions because no one will want to be linked to the fallout. How does this relate to you, Austin? There will be a publicly known scandal about how you didn't prioritize the community just to gain favor with law enforcement and other groups, and it will be highlighted in newspapers around the country. When you run for governor next fall, How many negative ads will be made using comments from a well-known prosecutor about how you can't be trusted to protect the community? He leaned forward on his desk, and I noticed his knuckles whitening as he pressed hard against the surface. It doesn't matter if the charges are true or not. Many voters who have been patient will see another politician trying to win over certain groups, while others who do not trust the police will view you as someone allowing bad behavior to continue. You want to be governor, and you'll face challenges from every direction. It's tough enough to win any political position without extra baggage holding you down. If you let me go and I speak up, you might as well enjoy being the state attorney here, or think about running for mayor. You won't climb any higher, and all your hopes of making a difference for the state can be put away for good. He finally let go of his grip on the desk and sat back down. Taking a deep breath, he said, "That woman you are seeing certainly brings attention." I was taken aback. That change in topic really surprised me. Where did that come from? Just a comment, Bill. I didn't know that calling the captain of the Bon Chance to arrange some help for you would lead to this. Do you think her husband knows about it? Austin, I knew you could be tough when you wanted to be, but do you really think that threatening the woman I'm seeing is going to scare me off? He shrugged. Not at all, unless you care about her and her marriage. If you did care, you wouldn't be involved with her, right? Is there a point to this chat? How do you even know about her? Do you keep tabs on all your staff? No, just the important ones. Actually, Harry, you know him. He's one of our investigators. He saw you at the restaurant with your family last weekend during an anniversary dinner. He recognized you and, knowing about your divorce, noticed the attractive woman at your table. He took a picture. It's just his habit. Since you've had a tough time and you're important to this office, I had her checked out. We have many investigators, you know. I also spoke to the captain of the Bon Chance. I know what took place between you and Aline Desjardins. I know she is married with a son, and her husband knows you from that investigation in Paris 4 years back. That really caught me off guard. You're someone who usually does the right thing, yet here you are, involved with a married woman whose husband helped you in the past. After your experience with Doug Baker, I didn't expect this from you. I should have walked away, but I wanted to see where this was leading. That's a low blow, Austin, and you know it. About as low as what you've done to Philippe Archambault. I ask again, what's the point? He smiled. Even though he seemed like a nice guy, he could be tough when he needed to be, and it was clear he wanted to be tough now. You know she might never choose to stay with you, right? So now you not only spy, but also see the future? She's been married for 10 years. She's had a few brief relationships, but she always goes back to Philippe. She has a son with him, which makes things complicated. If they separate, she knows it will be hard for her to keep her son. Philippe is too high up in the French government. He will get the boy, so when her 2 weeks here end, she'll be gone, no matter what she says to you. I already knew that, but it sounded different coming from him. So what? Why do you care about my personal life? He pointed to a photo in a frame on his wall. It was taken at a party the year after I became the lead prosecutor. He was there with his wife, the 3 other chief assistants and their spouses, and me. I looked away from it, determined not to let him see anything in my eyes or on my face about how the photo made me feel. Aline is just a phase. You're still tied to your ex. I noticed it just now. Anyone around you can see it when she's close. You can deny it, but why bother? You can date whoever you want at the courthouse, but there's a void in you that only she can fill. You're wrong. But what does this have to do with me and Sean Smith? If you let Sean Smith off the hook, I'll run for governor next year and likely win. Even if I don't win, I can help you get appointed to follow me. That would give you 4 years to prepare for another run. With my backing and your good name, you could have that position for as long as you want. And this job takes time, but not like yours. You'll handle some cases, but this is mainly a Monday through Friday job. Being a prosecutor cost you your marriage. Being in charge can help you get your life back. I don't have a life, as you clearly see if you're watching me this closely. You could, Bill. Your ex is seeing another instructor at UNF, a writer type named Clint Abbott. He seems like a decent guy, but they're just friends from what we've heard. In the meantime, she's visiting the courthouse for her new role, and some of our female staff think she finds reasons to come up to this floor more often than needed. It's almost like she's trying to see someone or be seen by someone. If this were a romance story, I might think you have a point, but there is nothing left between us, and there never will be. You're not the same person you were 6 or 7 months ago. Whatever happened is in the past. If you wanted her back, I bet you could get her. He turned the photo on his desk around so I could see it. It was a photo of him, his wife in a beautiful dress, and their 2 daughters, who were now mothers themselves. Greta and I will celebrate 30 years of marriage next February. It was the best choice I ever made. I was quite a free spirit when I was younger, but I've never regretted marrying. I'm proud of what I've achieved in my public life. I take pride in the work I've done here, especially in choosing you. But nothing in my life mattered as much as her. I know you love this job. I know you've made sacrifices for it. But you can't let your job take over your life. You can't hang on to work when life challenges you, and you need real connections. Aline won't always be around. You can't fill your life with temporary distractions. He turned the photo back toward himself. If you go ahead with the grand jury on Sean Smith, you're not just giving up this job. You're giving up any chance of putting your life back together and winning Debbie back. I was determined not to show that his words had an impact on me. Are we acting out a scene from Faust now, boss? Are you saying you'll grant me my biggest wish if I just give up my dreams? Just think about it, Bill. You said you won't make any decisions for a couple of weeks. I understand you're waiting to see what happens with Aline. All I ask is that you consider what we've talked about before making a final choice. You've waited this long. Just give it a couple of weeks. I won't change my mind. I'm hoping you will. Wednesday, September 7th, 2005, 2 p.m. Judge Leonard Pizarro looked first at Lou Walters and then at me. Are you gentlemen ready to continue? Judy Johansson was sitting next to Walters in an orange jumpsuit. He had raised concerns about her wearing prison clothes. When Pizarro noted that there was no jury to influence and that he ordered her to wear the jumpsuit, Lou could only smile and shrug his shoulders. I had to try, Your Honor, he said. Pizarro smiled back. I knew from the past that he used to be a top lawyer. He had a hidden respect for Lou's playful ways that he tried to keep under wraps during the trial. I understand your concerns, Mr. Walters, but Miss Johansson has been found guilty of serious charges. She doesn't qualify for bail because she could be a flight risk with her resources. This means she must stay in the Duval County Jail, and there's no reason to give her different clothes. Do you disagree? No, Your Honor. Are you ready to move forward with your arguments and witnesses? Yes, Your Honor, he replied, sounding humble. As he turned to speak to his client, I made a gesture suggesting he was too eager to please and smiled at him. When he gave me a weak smile and leaned over to talk to Judy, I started to feel uneasy. It wasn't like him to let something like that slide. I would talk with him after we were done. Jessica Stevens approached me with a file I had asked for earlier. It was unusual for her to be late for hearings. Something felt off. Is everything okay, Jessica? I asked, noticing her slightly flustered expression. She brushed her hair back, and I saw that a button on her blouse was undone. She also wore tights, but one leg showed a bit of skin at the top. I was surprised by what I saw. Jessica, I said again. She caught my gaze, and I looked up and down. She noticed the undone button, and when my eyes drifted, she glanced down at her tights. Color rose in her cheeks. Is there something we should discuss? She looked towards the front row where the reporters sat. I recognized Carl Cameron from TU. He was beaming at Jessica with a silly grin, as if he had just enjoyed something fun. I looked back at Jessica. Where? Her blush deepened. The bailiff's room behind Judge Pizarro's chambers. I smiled. You've certainly been busy. She held out her hand, showing off a diamond ring. Carl? She nodded. When did this happen? We got married on Sunday. No time for a honeymoon, so we're enjoying each moment. Congratulations, Jessica. Carl is lucky to have you. I'm really happy for you both. It took me a long time, but I finally realized that I didn't want to be without him, no matter the cost. I understood the sacrifices she had made. You made the right choice, Jessica. Marriage is a wonderful thing, and if anyone sees you, at least you have a marriage license. Mr. Maitland? Judge Pizarro's voice interrupted us, and I looked up to see one of Judy's sons heading to the witness stand. Sorry, Your Honor. We quieted down, and I heard Judy's sons talk about how loving she had been as a mother and a good partner to her first husband. They described the trouble Clark Carroll, her second husband, had caused. There had been emotional struggles, especially since there were no official records of problems, and she had never complained during their marriage. Judy spoke next, sharing how she had fallen for a powerful millionaire and how he had initially swept her off her feet. But she explained that after they married, he changed, mostly because his children disapproved of her and didn't want her to get any of his wealth. He had become very jealous and distant, making her life challenging. But he was clever and kept his troubles hidden from everyone else. She smiled sadly at the judge and said, "I'm not proud of what I did, Your Honor. I wasn't loyal to Clark, but I'm still here, and I have needs. I wanted to be with Carroll, but it wasn't just that he didn't support me emotionally. He was so upset and jealous, even though I tried to be there for him, that simple gestures of love felt impossible between us. I turned to another man because I felt lonely. I needed someone to be with. I'm sorry for that." Then she looked at me with deep focus. "But I did not mean to cause my husband's death. Mr. Maitland convinced the jury that an accident was the same as murder, but I never meant to hurt him. He made my life very hard in the end, but I never wanted him gone. I knew he was struggling, and he understood what was happening. I felt bad about that. But as God is my judge, I did not act with the intention to harm." Lou had prepared her well, and she sounded convincing. If she had been before a jury, I might have worried, but she was speaking to someone who had heard many similar stories for 30 years. He had learned to tell the difference between truth and lies. When Pizarro called on me, I stood up and walked to Lou's table. Miss Johansson gave a strong testimony. I applaud Mr. Walters for his preparation. I won't call any witnesses, and my comments will be brief and clear. I turned away from Judy and Lou and moved to the middle of the courtroom, facing Pizarro. "Your Honor, the jury has found that Miss Johansson, with planning, knowingly gave her husband medication that led to his death. They convicted her of first-degree murder. Therefore, her denial of involvement means little. It is irrelevant. The jury's findings speak differently." Miss Johansson herself acknowledged during her testimony that she had a strong motive. She had a lover who claimed she mentioned wanting to hurt Clark Carroll. Even if one believes Miss Johansson's story about Mr. Carroll's alleged mistreatment, it only adds to the reasoning for her actions. Moreover, Miss Johansson could have left her difficult situation simply by seeking a divorce, but if she had done that, she would have lost his wealth. Thus, she had another reason to want him gone. I glanced back at Judy. She had worked so hard, and it seemed for nothing. "That concludes the state's argument, Your Honor." Pizarro took a careful sip of water from the glass before him and then addressed Judy. "Miss Johansson, please stand. Mr. Walters, Mr. Maitland." I focused on her rather than Pizarro. "I find no need for further consideration regarding your sentence, Miss Johansson. The discussion today does not change the facts of this case. You have been found guilty of planning and committing murder. The possible sentence is serious. In my view, this crime does not require the highest penalty. A life sentence without the possibility of getting out is another option. However, I believe this crime does not demand that strong a punishment either. Given your age, a 10-year sentence followed by 10 years of supervised release seems appropriate. You can appeal this sentence if you choose, but I don't think any appeal will succeed, especially considering what you could have faced. This is also why I chose this sentence. I believe it will help prevent many appeals that only slow down the court system. The bailiff will now take you back, Miss Johansson, and you will be moved to the women's area of the state's minimum security prison in Lodi within the next 2 days. I wish you luck." She stood there for a long moment, her face showing a hopeful smile. One of her sons groaned and another slumped back in his seat, clearly upset. She was their mother, after all. This reaction was expected. 2 women bailiffs came to her side. I moved closer as they did. She looked at me as if she didn't recognize me. "It's one thing to know you will spend your life in prison. It is another to have it confirmed." She might have been starting to feel overwhelmed. "Judy," I spoke softly so only she and Lou could hear. "You might manage to leave prison one day. You're in good health. But I think you won't be in a strong position. Carol's children are questioning the will, and with your conviction, they might take everything you have. I suggest you be careful with your money." This seemed to wake her up. "Why do you dislike me, Maitland?" "I don't dislike you, Judy. I actually feel sorry for you. If you had waited a year or two, he would have died, and you would have inherited most of his wealth. You would have still had time to enjoy it. Many healthy 70-year-olds find companionship and live happily. But you were greedy and rushed things. Think about that in the next 10 years as you go to sleep in a bed with some rather interesting neighbors." As the bailiffs led her away, Lou spoke from behind me. "That was tough, Bill." "She's better off than Clark Carroll, but—" I turned to him. He was bent over, organizing papers into his briefcase. "Are you okay, Lou?" "Why do you ask?" "You just seem different today. Where's your usual confidence? Where's the guy we've come to know and joke about?" He gave me a slight smile at the tease, but something felt off. "Maybe you just knocked the confidence out of me." The angel of death took me out. "I've beaten you before, and you didn't seem so upset then. Come on, what's really going on?" It's nothing, Bill. Just get ready, because the next time we face off, I will come out on top. I hate to say this, but you're not convincing me. This is me, after all. Want to grab a coffee? I can take the rest of the day off if you'd like to relax for a bit." He shook his head. "Sorry, Bill. I have some things to finish up and need to prepare for a trip. I've got a case in San Francisco. It's a big chance for me, and I have to leave tonight." I could tell something was bothering him. Talk of big money didn't seem to make him happy. Just then, someone tapped my shoulder. I turned to see Heather McDonald smiling and giving me a hug. "I'm sorry I'm late. I wanted to be here for the sentencing, but I was in a meeting with detectives. I just heard 10 years. I guess that's okay, right?" "She'll be almost 80 when she gets out. I think Pizarro thinks that's long enough if she even makes it. I told her that Carol's kids will likely challenge their father's wishes, so when she gets out, she won't be broke. But she won't be rich, either. It wasn't a good day for her." She raised an eyebrow, and I smiled back. She knew the power of her smile. "Congratulations, Bill. You did well." "We did well. I wrote a note tonight praising you, though I'm not sure it will have much effect at the precinct. Didn't anyone tell you that you shouldn't be seen talking to me?" "I know what's going on, Bill. Many of us think Knight shouldn't risk the entire department's reputation on someone who shot a man in the back. You still have friends there." "Thanks, Heather. But it's best to stay out of this. Don't get caught in the middle. It could complicate things. I won't be signing any petitions, but if you need a friend, just call. Oh, by the way." She turned a bit as a tall, dark-haired young man, who looked like he might be a detective, came to stand beside her. The way they looked at each other said a lot. "Mr. Maitland, this is Detective Rob Goland. He works in homicide. Rob, this is Bill Maitland, the best prosecutor in the state." He extended his hand, and we shook. He smiled but positioned himself slightly between us, hinting at his connection to Heather. She gave me a pleased smile. "Nice to meet you, Mr. Maitland. Heather has told me all about you." From behind his back, she mouthed, "Not all." "Well, I appreciate the kind words, but she's the one who really caught Judy Jacobson. She's really good at what she does." She shook her head slightly at that, but the young man didn't seem to notice. I guessed he was probably not even 30, more like 25 or 26. "Mr. Maitland, I just wanted to check on the verdict. We need to hurry. We're going out to eat. Rob, could you go ahead and wait for me out front? I just need to finish discussing something with Mr. Maitland." "Sure. See you later, Mr. Maitland." After he left the courtroom, she moved closer and said, "I'm sorry we haven't had a chance to catch up, Bill. I've missed our talks." "Yeah, but I'm busy right now." She reached out and I shook her hand. This time she held it firmly. It felt professional. "I understand, Bill. I didn't expect it to be anything more than a one-time thing. Honestly, I can't do much right now. Rob and we're, He's a nice guy, but he's lucky to have you. Isn't he a bit older, though?" Smart remark. What can I say? I like the older man thing. I enjoy it. "Well, Heather, go enjoy your dinner. But seriously, stay away from the Sean Smith situation. You work in that department, and I'm not the best person to be around right now. Take care of yourself. I'll manage." I was the only one left in the room, except for a court reporter finishing her notes and a bailiff who seemed to have nowhere else to be. I still felt uneasy about Lou, so I decided to head to Starbucks and felt lucky when I spotted him grabbing a coffee, turning to leave the courthouse. Lou. Now you're following me? You're not developing a crush on me, are you? That could be complicated. He sounded more like himself, but still not quite right. Lou, we've been friends for a long time. I'm not trying to pry, but can I help you with anything? Work or personal? He paused by the doors to the outside and took a sip of his coffee. No. Your instincts are good, but this isn't something you can help with. Personal? He nodded. It's about Mona. You remember what you said when I called about Debbie and me breaking up? So I'll ask you. Did you do something you regret? He shook his head and looked at the floor. Tell me, or I'll keep asking until you do. Keeping his eyes down, he said, You know Mona and I. We've been trying for kids, for a while. Yeah, although I do wonder about your sanity at times. Sorry, I know it's not funny for you. Well, we found out recently. What happened? It's Mona. She can't have children, so it's over. We both fell silent for a moment. Have you thought about... It's over, Bill. It's over. He met my gaze. Things have been tense since then, but we'll get through it. Right now, it seems I should give her some space. That's why I'm taking the case. She has been out of the country for a while. We just need time apart. I'm no expert at keeping marriages strong, but don't you think you should talk things over? Maybe see someone for help? Right now, she doesn't want much to do with me. I didn't handle the situation well. He took another sip of his drink and added, I have to go, Bill. I'll reach out later. I stopped him before he could open the door. I could talk to Mona if you want. Sometimes an outsider can help. Just leave it, Bill. You have enough going on. We'll be fine. And then he left. I stood there watching the flow of people coming and going. How many of them had happy marriages? Or relationships? How did couples manage to stay together? Thursday, September 8th, 2005, 2:30 a.m. She tossed and turned in bed. She never realized how big it was until now. She was half awake, caught between sleep and waking. Thoughts of various men from her past came to her, and she felt a mix of emotions. Bill filled her mind and her defenses fell. He felt so far away. You came into my life, but then you left for your job and who knows what else. As that thought crossed her mind, it felt like unlocking a door to a hidden place. She found herself remembering the long glass front of a bar she and Bill had visited years ago. O'Brien's was a dive, somewhere they didn't go anymore, but she knew he liked it. She had called Mary Jane, one of Clarice's few friends from before the divorce, looking for her aunt. They used to talk almost every day, but it had been nearly 2 weeks. Clarice had always been beautiful and elegant, someone Debbie admired growing up. Much of what she learned about being a woman and understanding men came from her aunt. Since Clarice's husband left her, she had struggled. Debbie knew she had been dating around, going out with men who were either too old or too young, trying to fill the emptiness left by her ex. Mary Jane, Clarice's oldest friend, had been hesitant to talk much, only mentioning that Clarice was making some risky decisions. Mary Jane was no stranger to relationships. She had been divorced 3 times and had many male friends, but... I'm worried about her, Debbie. She's making bad choices. I saw her get into a car with someone, and I'm worried for her safety. I've talked to her, but she won't listen. Maybe she'd listen to you. Mary Jane wasn't sure where Clarice was tonight, but she thought she remembered her mentioning a gathering at O'Brien's on the west side. Debbie considered asking Bill to join her, but as usual, he was busy working late on a case. Even if he had been around, he didn't share the same bond with Clarice that Debbie did. But he hadn't grown up with her. She wasn't like a second mom to him. He had always held on to his opinions firmly. Clarice liked to joke that he had probably been serious his whole life. Now she was inside, and it was quite calm for 8 p.m. on a Thursday. A few people sat at the large horseshoe-shaped bar, some couples were dancing and others were playing pool. She looked around but didn't see a blonde woman nearly her height. 2 pool players, both in black hats, came over to her, smiling. They asked if she wanted to join their game. The taller one flashed a smile and seemed very interested in her. The shorter one, who was a bit more polite, asked if they could buy her a drink if she wasn't with anyone. No thank you, boys, but I appreciate it. If I didn't have something to do, I'd love to play a game with you. She smiled playfully, enjoying their attention while staying calm. Sometimes it felt almost unfair how much her presence could attract interest. "I'm looking for a friend. An older lady, blonde, about 5'6", in her mid-50s. She might have come in here with some friends. Have you seen her tonight?" They exchanged looks. The taller one finally said, "Yeah, I think she's here. She went into the bathroom. Some others might have gone in with her." Seeing his anxious expression, she nodded in understanding. "Probably just a coincidence. Lots of people use the restrooms in here." "Thanks, boys. Maybe I'll run into you again soon." She walked across the room, trying to move gracefully. It was easy for her after all these years, and they had been respectful, so there was no need to draw more attention. As she neared the restrooms decorated with Western art, she hoped her thoughts were wrong. Inside, the restroom was quite large. A girl, likely around 15 years old, was at the mirror putting on lipstick. Debbie noticed her for a moment, but the girl's quick glance suggested she wasn't friendly. Women could sometimes be that way, she thought. Debbie looked at a stall with black pants visible under the door and approached the entrance to the ladies' restroom. As she pushed, she felt that the door was blocked from the other side. "It's occupied. I have a friend who's not feeling well. Just give us a minute and then you can come in," a voice called from inside. She stepped back for a moment, then ran at the door, pushing it hard. The door swung open, and the man inside stumbled and fell to his hands and knees. Debbie saw the situation unfold before her. "Clarice!" she yelled. The man hovering over Clarice turned and glared at Debbie for a moment before rushing toward her. "Get her!" he shouted to his friends. Debbie quickly reacted, delivering a strong kick that knocked the man to the ground. But before she could do anything else, another man grabbed her from behind, holding her arms tightly. She fought to escape, but he wrapped his legs around hers. Without thinking, Debbie declared, "You touch me, and my husband will find you." The third man charged at her, pushing her and the one holding her against the wall. The force loosened his grip, and Debbie was knocked aside. The two men began to struggle with each other, but she still wasn't safe. The man she had kicked was on his feet again, advancing toward her. "Danny, don't! Please!" one of the men urged. "I can't let her go! She could get us all in trouble!" Danny replied angrily. "Listen," another man interrupted, trying to calm Danny down. "We're too close to losing everything. We can't make this worse." Tension filled the room as Debbie realized her only chance was to stay alert and not let them overpower her. She was recognized as Maitland's wife, the top state attorney in Jacksonville. Touching her is worse than messing with a police officer's family. If the stories are true, hurting her would lead to serious consequences, one man warned. "You might not make it that far anyway," another added. The three men looked toward the doorway where a short, dark-haired man stood, lightly tapping a baseball bat in his hand. Debbie recognized O'Brien, the bar owner, and knew he had a tough reputation. With or without the bat, these men were in trouble. "You really think you can cause trouble in my place? I hope you try to put up a fight," he said, gesturing at them with his free hand. "Go ahead, I'm just one old man. You could take a shot at me," he taunted. One man, named Bobby, let his friend go and raised his hands in a sign of peace as he backed away from O'Brien. "O'Brien, don't. The woman wanted this. She said she wanted to be with us in public. It all got out of control, but she was okay with it," Bobby tried to explain. "Call the police, O'Brien," Debbie urged, struggling to stand. Her stockings were ruined and she felt sore from falling. "Already done, Mrs. Maitland," he replied. The three men exchanged glances, weighing their chances against O'Brien and the arrival of the police. Danny was breathing heavily, and Debbie knew he was about to make a move. As he got ready, she stepped in behind him and kicked him to stop him. "Debbie, please don't!" Debbie glanced at the woman on the floor. The sight made her stomach turn, and the situation felt overwhelming. The worry in the room was thick, and the unpleasant smell only made her feel worse. Clarice spoke so softly that Debbie almost missed it. She knelt next to her and pulled her close, trying to block out the discomfort. "What is it, Clarice?" she whispered. "No, let them go, please." "No, I can't let them go after what they did to you. They went too far. Bill will make sure they pay for it. Please, just take me home." "How can I do that? Look at what happened." Her aunt, trembling, urged her to meet her gaze. "It's true. I came here on my own. I thought I wanted this, but it got out of hand." They still shouldn't have treated you like that. Deb, if they get arrested, it will all come out, and Frank and his partner will laugh at how desperate I am since I lost him. I can't stand that. I can't believe this happened, Clarice said softly. Debbie was quiet for a moment, thinking about everything. It's not your fault, she finally replied. People make mistakes, but they don't deserve to be hurt like this. The tension in the room was thick, and Debbie knew the police could arrive at any moment. She turned to O'Brien. Let them go, she urged. Please, for me, for Bill. This doesn't need to get worse. O'Brien hesitated, but eventually stepped aside, allowing the three men to leave. As they walked past, he placed a firm hand on Bobby's shoulder. I know your family, Bobby, he said quietly. You and your friends are not welcome here again. If you see me on the street, you avoid me. If you come back, I'll make sure your father knows what you've done. Bobby nodded quickly, and the three men hurried off. What can I do? O'Brien asked. Can you get me a blanket or towel? And is there a back exit? Debbie asked, trying to keep her voice steady. When O'Brien returned, Debbie wrapped Clarice in the towel. Please keep everyone out of here for a few minutes. And O'Brien, she added, don't tell Bill anything about this. He won't take it well and it'll make things worse. O'Brien nodded, understanding. Nothing happened here tonight, he reassured her. Just another quiet night. Debbie gave him a quick kiss on the cheek as she passed. He touched his cheek and smiled. Now I'll never wash my face again. 10 minutes later, Debbie had Clarice settled in the front seat of her car. The night was unusually cool, and despite Debbie's attempts to comfort her, Clarice was still trembling and looked pale. A dark bruise showed on her side. It's going to be okay, Debbie said gently, trying to reassure her. You will be all right. Clarice kept her eyes closed and softly said, I know you must think less of me now. Debbie shook her head. No, Clarice. You've helped me so many times. Remember when I was 16 and you came into that bar to get me out? You saved me from some rough spots. Clarice managed a faint smile as she remembered that night. That was a crazy evening, she said. I still remember how scared those men were. Debbie smiled back, feeling their connection grow stronger in the stillness of the car. Clarice leaned back against the seat, her eyes filling with tears. That was a long time ago, back when I had a life and a husband. Debbie reached over and held her aunt's hand, feeling how cold it was. You're still a wonderful person, Clarice. You deserve so much better than being with people like that. Clarice wiped her tears and sighed. You don't understand, Debbie. Getting older is tough. It's just not the same anymore. You don't have to give up, Debbie said softly. There are still people who care about you. When they arrived at Clarice's home, Debbie helped her out of the car. Clarice was unsteady, clearly feeling the effects of the night. Debbie supported her, understanding the weight of what her aunt had experienced. She may not have been old, but fatigue showed on her face. Inside the house, Debbie took Clarice to the bathroom and helped her into the shower. She wanted to wash away the pain of the evening. Gently, she shampooed her aunt's hair under the warm water, hoping to bring her comfort. Clarice turned her face toward Debbie and with a tired smile whispered, Thank you. The warmth of their moment felt like a small step toward healing, even if a long journey lay ahead. For reasons she couldn't explain, Debbie felt tears welling up. You know I care about you, don't you? You're like the daughter I never had. I care about you too, Clarice. It's too late for me, but it's not too late for you. It's not too late. You have many years ahead of you. There will be someone special. Frank doesn't see what he's lost. He's not who I thought he was, but I still have feelings for him. I loved him deeply and would have done anything for him. He didn't appreciate you, Debbie said, feeling tears in her eyes. No, he didn't. But it doesn't matter now. My life is finished. But you still have time. Time for what? You need to be cautious. Men can be unpredictable. As you get older, they often look for something different. My brother, even though I care for him, made mistakes in his relationships that hurt others. Debbie just stared at her, trying to understand. It's okay. He's your father. You might find it hard to believe, but it's true. And Bill may not meet your expectations either. No, he may not be the same man he used to be, but he's still good. I thought the same about Frank. People change. They can drift away and look for something new. Clarice, I trust Bill. I would know if he was being unfaithful. Just like I would have known what Frank was doing. You're mistaken, Clarice. I have faith in him. Clarice held her face in her hands, looking serious. He could hurt you. I hope I won't be around when things start to fall apart for you. But please, be careful. Protect your feelings. Lying in her oversized bed, Debbie stared at the ceiling in the dark and whispered, "You were right, Clarice. But I tried to shield myself, and look where that got me." Thursday, September 8th, 2005, 4:30 p.m. I picked up the phone when Cheryl called me. I was hoping to leave by 5 p.m. for a change. Time was running out for me and Aline, and it felt like something was pushing me along. "Miss Martinez is here. Can you talk to her?" I wondered if there was news for me, or if Edwards sent her to change my mind again, or if he had told her what was happening and she had her own reasons to come. "Send her in." A minute later, she walked in, and I couldn't help but smile. She looked almost like a cartoon version of a caring figure. But this was no joke. She wasn't smiling, which was unusual. "Miss Martinez, why are you here? Did Mr. Edwards send you with a message for me?" "Austin told me what's happening. You're going to go through with it, aren't you?" "Yes. It wouldn't change anything to ask you to think again, would it?" "Did Edwards send you, Myra? I have to confess, I thought better of you. I didn't expect you to use your influence like this." This was the first time I saw her genuinely upset. I was glad the desk was between us. If she got too close, she might let her frustration show in other ways. "You can be very foolish sometimes, Bill. I should advise you to reconsider, but it seems you've made up your mind." When she said, "You've made up your mind," she shifted slightly, showing her disappointment. I wouldn't act on it, but for a moment I could imagine a different kind of connection. She relaxed and said, "But sadly, I would be lying if I said it didn't hurt. Do you really think I would compromise my values to help Austin?" "Myra, I've never asked, but I know you have a special bond with Austin. That's fine. You're both adults. But I know you work closely with him, and I can see how much he wants me to change my mind about Smith. So I had to ask." She gave me a curious look. "I do have a special bond with Austin. He's a wonderful man, though it might not be the kind of relationship people think it is. He never asked me for help with anything. I know him. He just wouldn't do that." "Okay, I'm sorry. Why are you here, Myra?" "I asked Austin about what's going on between you two, and he told me. Are you really ready to give up 10 years in this office, now 11, to chase one case where you admit there might be room for different opinions? I have always respected your determination when you believe you're right, but there's a difference between determination and obsession. Sometimes that line is hard to see. Maybe I'm just holding on to what I think is right. I need to follow my beliefs, and I can't just let this go." "You really don't think he will let you leave if you decide to go forward, do you? You might feel like you are the only one who will stand strong for what is right, but he is just like that too. I believe he could let you go if you press the issue, even if it might hurt his future plans." I tried to focus and push aside the distractions, but watching her breathe, with her bright eyes and passionate expression, reminded me that while love is powerful, attraction is not far behind. "He might let me go, Myra, I get that. But really, so what? Life will go on. I can find another job. Maybe I've been here too long anyway. Perhaps moving on is what I need. Being somewhere without old memories might be a good thing. The office will carry on. Whoever takes my place will do their best. No one is irreplaceable." "That's true, Bill. But you are very skilled because you genuinely care about the people who are hurt by others. It's never just a job for you. That's one reason I'm drawn to you. You're not an ordinary lawyer. You take it seriously. You can't just lose a case and move on easily. It's not a game for you." "It's not a great quality, Myra. It cost me my marriage. Almost cost me my kids, too. I would have been better off if I could leave it all at work." She reached across the desk and placed her hand over mine. I thought this might lead somewhere, but it didn't go any further. "I'm being selfish, Bill. I don't want you to leave Jacksonville. I still want my chance if things with the Frenchwoman don't work out. But I know that the chance for something special isn't enough to change your mind. Just think about this. Whoever comes after you won't be as invested. The people you could have helped will suffer. Is going after one person worth taking away the justice for all those others? I didn't respond. What would be the point? After a long pause, she withdrew her hand. She shook her head and stood up. "You are so frustrating," she said. "I don't know if I should talk to you directly or find another way to show how I feel." She walked out, leaving me alone with my thoughts. Saturday, September 10th, 2005, 9 p.m. We stood on the riverwalk, watching a big yacht gently bob on the waves. The lights from restaurants and stores behind us brightened the night, but here, only a few lights on poles cast shadows on the water of the St. John's. "It's beautiful," Aline said. It was cool enough that she shivered slightly in her red dress. We had dinner at Benny's, probably the best steakhouse in Jacksonville, then strolled along the St. John's, admiring the private yachts docked along the river. Their owners came to enjoy the restaurants and a few clubs in Jacksonville. The yacht was shiny gold and sleek metal surrounding smooth wood, nearly 100 feet long. I looked into her eyes. There was a deep sadness in them that I could feel. I realized in that moment that even if she left Philippe, she might still not stay. She loved the sea and life on it more than she could ever love me or Philippe. She looked up at me and saw that I understood. She leaned closer, her arm around my waist. "I love you more than you will ever know," she said softly. "More than I should, more than I ever thought I could love anyone. It's owned by someone from the Saudi royal family. They say it costs over $50 million. It's a floating home that can stay at sea for 6 months without needing to dock. It has a spa, a gym, and every luxury you can imagine. The owner has 4 wives who sail with him and about a dozen kids." She studied my face as I talked about the yacht instead of responding to her. I wasn't sure what she wanted me to say or if I was just afraid to share my true feelings. Since that call from Philippe at the beach, I felt like a man cautiously walking across a wobbly bridge, testing each board as I stepped, unsure when one might give and leave me falling. He had been just a name to me before. Now he felt real and was standing between us. "You don't have to say anything, Bill. I know how you feel. I have since the bonne chance. I hope you understand how I feel too." "I do, and I know you love Philippe, or was that je t'aime not real?" "No, it was real, but I wish it weren't. That would make things so much easier." I pulled her closer and breathed in the scent of her hair. "This is complicated. Are you regretting that I came back?" "I will never regret that you came back. I might feel pain later, but right now I'm happy you returned." I gently pushed her away, and despite the confusion inside me, I smiled as I said, "This feels like a song from the 1950s. Till the hurting starts. We're living in a sad country western song." She snuggled up to me and asked, "Don't you believe in fate? What are the chances that we met? That I came here just to meet you? That you challenged me and helped me let go of my anger with your kindness and understanding? Those can't just be coincidences. No matter what happens next, it was meant to be." "I'm not sure I believe in God," I said. "I believe in coincidences. It's easier for me to think that than to believe God is a force that puts us through pain and heartache." She stepped back and took my hand, leading me along the riverwalk away from the yachts. For a moment, we stood alone under a streetlight. The dark water of the St. John's River glimmered in the light, and somewhere nearby, something jumped out of the water with a splash. She leaned against the wooden railing and adjusted her fleur-de-lis pin so that it caught the light just right. "You and I both know what this means. You won my heart with this. My mom and others have told me I can be a smart aleck at times. They're right, but I'm not sure where it comes from." "You are so easy," I teased. "One pin and—" She playfully tapped my cheek and leaned in closer. "It's not the pin. It's what it stands for, and that is you." After a brief moment, she took my left hand in hers and raised it to the light. My wedding ring shone brightly. "Why do you still wear her ring, Bill?" she asked. "It's not her ring, it's my wedding ring. I just got used to wearing it. It's a habit." "It's her ring, and everyone knows it. That's why I think a part of you still loves her. As long as it's on your finger, part of her is still with you, and don't kid yourself, she knows it too." "Maybe it seems that way, Aline, but it's not." "Then take it off. Put it in your pocket or move it to another finger, if you don't still love her." I reached out with my right hand and grasped that circle of gold, which held many memories, both joyful and painful. I gave it a tug until it slipped off. I had a gold nugget ring on the next finger, but it was too small for it. So I tried the middle finger instead. It was a bit tight, but my recent weight loss helped me slide it on. I held up my left hand to the light, and all that remained was the pale mark where the ring had been. "Are you convinced?" I asked. She reached into her purse and pulled out a shiny ring. She held it up to the light. It was silver with a square shape, featuring a fleur-de-lis design made with white gold and a small sparkling diamond in the middle. It was similar to the pin she wore. "You're not the only one who can give gifts, Mr. Maitland." I shook my head in surprise for a moment. "If that's real, it's too fancy. You could explain the pin, but how do you—" "I have my own money, Bill. Philippe doesn't ask about my personal spending, and it's real. It didn't cost much to have it made. Will you wear it for me?" "I will, but why? Remember you said you hoped I'd think of you when I wore the pin. Well, no matter what happens, I want to believe you won't forget me. And if you're wearing my ring, I know that you won't." She touched my finger and handed me the fleur-de-lis ring. It felt special as I put it on. It fit perfectly. It was a moment that was both important and simple. I took her home, and we enjoyed quiet moments together. Lying next to her, catching my breath, I said, "Well, that has to be a personal best for me. I never thought I'd feel this way at my age." With a smile, she touched the fleur-de-lis ring. "It's magic, Bill. It's magic. How do you argue with reality?" But I tried. "You're the magic." Of course, it wasn't magic, but she believed in it. Monday, September 12th, 2005, 7 p.m. We sat at a table in the top-floor restaurant on the 15th floor of the Barnett Bank building, looking out at the darkening sky over Jacksonville. I had promised Aline this view until my family interrupted us on our birthday. Now she was going to have it just before she left, probably for a long time. I ordered grilled tilapia as part of my plan to be more disciplined, making up for the treats I had while Aline was visiting. Aline ordered the chicken breast coq au vin. It might not be exactly what she'd find in Paris, but it was close enough for Jacksonville. We sat quietly, which was unusual for us. Usually we talked easily about many things, avoiding only a few sensitive topics, but now the silence felt heavy between us. We ate, Aline taking bites of chicken with sips of red wine while I drank coffee, aware that Knight was serious about watching me. I knew officers would be following me, no matter what their official tasks were. If I was seen having anything alcoholic, I had to stay calm to avoid problems. I didn't think he would set me up, as he wasn't that kind of person. He understood that even if Edwards was upset with me, putting a prosecutor in a bad situation would only create trouble for everyone. But if I gave him a chance to make trouble, he would take it. "It's nothing like the Eiffel Tower," I said, pointing to the view of Jacksonville from 130 feet up. "But I hope you remember it." This was my way of saying she would remember because she wouldn't be around anymore. I hadn't looked at her suitcase or checked anything really, but she must have had a ticket for her flight back to Paris. We hadn't discussed what we'd do on Tuesday, how she'd get to the airport, or even that she was leaving. Maybe we should have talked about it, but if we did, it would feel too real. I wanted to keep our last moments together free from that weight. After we finished eating and paid, she asked, "Could we go to St. Augustine tonight? Is it too late? I want to walk on the beach one last time." "No, it's not too late." We stopped by the condo to grab blankets, then drove on I-95, taking the 3rd St. Augustine exit, which brought us straight to the beach and skipped most of the city. We parked at Matanzas, where a couple of cars were nearby, but the people inside were too caught up in their own world to notice us. We crossed the road and walked down to the water with blankets draped over my shoulders. Hand in hand, we watched the waves roll onto the shore under the light of a half moon. It seemed to float on the water, but I could tell Aline was thinking about home. We ventured into the dunes, cherishing our time together. I felt close to her as we shared the blankets and let the ocean breeze surround us. Then she said, "Can we walk on the beach one more time, Bill? After that, I need to get some rest." She didn't mention her early morning schedule, but I understood what she meant. We strolled along the beach, holding on to our last moments. Eventually, we returned to the condo, showered, and got ready for the next day. She lay down beside me but didn't cuddle up the way she usually did. She moved close enough for our arms to touch, but turned away from me. After she thought I was asleep, I heard her softly cry. It's profoundly sad to know someone is crying quietly in the dark next to you and you can't comfort them. I tried to sleep. I might have imagined it, but I think she brushed her lips against mine. When my alarm went off at 6 a.m., I awoke alone in my bed. I lingered there for what felt like ages. There was still a slight warmth on the sheets where she should have been. I ran my hand over that empty space. Finally, I knew I had to get up because I had a job and my own life waiting. I climbed out of bed and went to the closet for clothes. I dressed, headed to the bathroom, and got ready for the day. Then I went to the kitchen and saw the coffee maker was already on. I poured myself a cup, added some cream, and walked over to the table. Just as I expected, there was a piece of cream-colored paper sitting in the center of the table. Aline's neat, small letters filled the page. I took a sip of my hot coffee and picked up the newspaper. Dear Bill, I'm on my way to the airport. I know I'm being weak. I couldn't say goodbye because I didn't think I could leave if I looked into your eyes. I need to go back. Even though Philippe may have made mistakes with other people, he hasn't broken the promises of our marriage. I have. I need to face him to see if our marriage can be saved. I won't know until I see him again. But more than anything, I need to go back for Andre. I told you I love you, and I truly do. But if I choose you over Philippe, I will also be leaving Andre. I know I can't take him away from Philippe, and I can't leave Andre. He's just a little boy, and he wouldn't understand why his mother left him. It's time to go, Bill. My heart feels heavy. I expect you might be upset with me, but I had to come to you, and now I have to leave you. Please forgive me, Aline. I read it over several times, but the words stayed the same. I looked at her fleur-de-lis ring on my finger and realized I could never take it off. I packed my briefcase with all the papers I'd need for the next day, then took a quick glance around the room. It felt like just a condo again. I closed my eyes for a moment and almost caught a whiff of her scent. I had been dishonest with her and with myself. 2 weeks isn't a long time. It can't be. It's just 2 weeks. Tuesday, September 13th, 2005, 11 a.m. I took the elevator up, avoiding conversation and eye contact with anyone. A few courthouse staff members crossed my path, but suddenly they found reasons to go in other directions. After leaving the condo, I almost found myself driving to the airport, but I stopped. There was nothing I could say that would change her decision. I checked, and her flight was scheduled to leave at 11 a.m. With time to spare, I went to the gym and worked out until I was exhausted, then showered and headed to the office. As I stepped off the elevator on the 5th floor, I spotted Johnny August talking to someone I didn't know. He looked at me, and even though I felt invisible, he looked away. Was it that obvious? I nodded toward Cheryl and said, "No calls from anyone for the next 10 minutes," before entering my office. I locked the door behind me. I didn't want to see anyone. I placed my briefcase on the desk, took the phone off the hook, and walked to the large window. I pulled back the curtains and looked up at the sky. Somewhere in the sky, Aline's plane was climbing through the clouds, heading to New York, then on to Paris. I imagined her sitting in her seat. Did she ask for a window seat to watch Jacksonville fade away beneath her? Was she enjoying a drink or thinking about what to tell Philippe about her last 2 weeks? Was she wearing the fleur-de-lis as she said she would? Or did she hide it away like our memories together? I wondered if she would think of me when she was with him. Would she say my name during a happy moment, or would my face fade from her memory as time went by? I thought I had no more tears left, but they were still flowing down my cheeks. It felt so silly. I was a grown man. I had shared a 2-week adventure with a lovely woman, but it was never really serious. It was just a brief chapter in both of our lives. Then I told myself, "You are not being honest with yourself. You love that woman. You still have feelings for your ex-wife as well. Not the one who made bad choices, not that Debbie. The Debbie who comforted you in the night, the one who cried when her aunt passed away, the one who could brighten your day just by being there, the one who made tough days feel lighter over the years. Lou, others only see the difficult parts. They don't know how she cared for me. They can't see that side of Debbie, only what is left of her. And I can't accept that my Debbie is gone for good." I realized I had locked the door because if anyone had come in and heard me talking to myself, they might have thought I was in trouble. But I didn't want that. The officer had noted months ago that my job was all I had now, or at least it was what held the most importance. I couldn't risk that by letting anyone think I was struggling again. I could keep my job for a little while longer, for a few days at least. And after that, who knows what would happen? I unlocked my door but left my phone off the hook. That might give me a few more moments of peace. Then I returned to look out at Jacksonville. I rested my face in my hands and tried to think. I am a capable man. I solve problems every day. I've built a life for myself. What should I do now? But nothing changes the truth that I loved one woman who stopped loving me, and I care for another woman who cannot feel the same because she is still married. I am in a tough spot. Tuesday, September 13th, 2005, 11:10 a.m. She looked at Cheryl. His phone's off the hook. I don't think he wants to talk to anyone. I know you don't have to let me, Cheryl, but I thought we were friends. One friend spoke to another. You saw him. Let me go in and talk to him. I don't think you're exactly what he needs right now. I'm exactly what he needs, and no matter what anyone says, I don't want to hurt him anymore. Cheryl finally agreed. She opened the door. He stood by the large window looking out at the morning sky. She understood what he was searching for. He did not turn around. Why did I know you would show up this morning? Because we were married for nearly 20 years. You get to know someone well in that time. Not really. I thought I knew you, but I obviously didn't. But you knew I would come. Only because bad things happen in threes. I knew you had to be in there somewhere. God only knows what the last thing will be. Maybe I'll have a health issue. You're too healthy for that. Only good people face challenges. You're not that good, despite what you say. If that's true, you should live forever. He still hadn't turned to face her, so she walked closer until she was right in front of him. She wrapped her arms around him. He felt thinner and stronger than she remembered. She hadn't touched him in over 6 months. He tensed but didn't push her away. I know I'm really down when I can't find the energy to talk to you. I'm sorry. Why? What did you do this time? I hired a private investigator. I know she was living with you. I know what you've been doing together. I know she has a family in Paris. I know she left your place early this morning without you. You didn't take her to the airport. She's going back to them, isn't she? Why do you care? Why go to all that trouble? We aren't married anymore. She leaned her head on his shoulder, trying to collect herself. It felt familiar after all those years together. I know you, Bill. I know you might be seeing other women here. I even heard about a female officer, but I know these aren't serious. I noticed how you looked at her the night we all arrived at your place. You've never looked at anyone that way except me. That's part of why I got upset that night. I know we're not married. I know I shouldn't feel this way. It feels odd to care about something I thought I didn't want anymore, but it hurt. Why would it hurt? You told me you didn't love me anymore. We're divorced. I know it doesn't make sense, but I haven't been logical about many things lately. I'm trying to understand everything. I just know that seeing her and seeing you look at her, it hurt. I wanted to find out all I could about her. You never bought me anything like that in all the years we were together. You can't be serious. You were with someone else while we were married. Even if it wasn't physical, it was still hard for me. You threw me out of my own house. You chose him instead of me. You pulled away from my life, and now you seem upset because I got some nice jewelry for a new woman. She hugged him a bit tighter, and he didn't push her away. I know this sounds strange. You told me I was being unfair. Maybe I was for a while. But one thing I know is that you really cared about Aline, or as I like to call her, the thin French woman. So when she left you, and you walked in here looking like you lost something valuable, I understood what happened. She went back to him, didn't she? Yes, she did. Is she coming back? Do you think she'll leave him? He lightly touched the glass with his fingers. She noticed the new ring on his left hand, along with the wedding ring on his right. The fleur-de-lis was a reminder of Aline's mark on him, even if she wasn't here. Aline's presence would always be felt. I hope not. She could lose her son. She might lose someone she still cares about. I don't want to be Doug, even if I've been acting like him since I met her. Doug didn't break us up. I was going to leave you, Bill, whether I met him or not. Thanks, that makes me feel better. I shouldn't tell you this, The person I'm seeing said I shouldn't, but I need to. I told you I didn't cheat on you before Doug, and I didn't cross any lines, but I did get a little close with a couple of guys. She felt him tense up and wondered why she was sharing this. Was her frustration pushing her to be honest while he was hurting? It didn't feel that way to her, but maybe she was tired of pretending. What? I'm already feeling down, so why not share more? I got friendly with a couple of guys at parties. I flirted a lot. I never crossed certain lines, but I did get close. So you never crossed that line. I should be thankful. I'm not saying I'm perfect, Bill. I know I wasn't a good partner these past few years. I told myself it was okay because I saved my feelings for you, but honestly, I enjoyed my alone time more than I did with you. What did I ever do to deserve that? I don't know. I was angry at you a lot, but I thought I hid it well. I guess I was just frustrated. I didn't respect you as much as I should have. You forget. I read your emails. I know how you truly felt about me. What good would lying do? I wrote what I felt, plain and simple. But this drives you crazy, and I understand. However, part of it was on you, too. Even if you won't admit it, deep down, you know I'm right. You left me alone for this job. You wanted to be St. Bill more than you wanted to be with me. And that made what you were doing okay? No, I didn't say that. Just like what you've been doing with Aline for the past 2 weeks wasn't okay. And you know it. But you did it anyway. They stood quietly for a moment. I know I was wrong, but can you be honest with me about one thing? What have I ever lied to you about? I don't know. That's why I'm asking. Did you ever break my trust? You don't have to tell me the truth, but we're done. It won't change anything. I just want to know. To make yourself feel better about what you did? No. Whether you were with someone else or stayed true, I should have left you. I should have been brave enough to walk away. I had a good job. The kids were teens. I could have started fresh. I've always been able to meet new people. I could have found someone else. I shouldn't have hurt you the way I did, with Doug and the messages. I was scared, and I'm sorry for that. I hope this hurts a bit more, Debbie. No, I never betrayed you. I never had anyone else while we were married, until Aline. Sounds like Aunt Clarice is speaking from beyond, doesn't it? I never truly believed it, but the things she said stuck with me, and I never really doubted them either. He shook his head. The poor woman. She lost her husband, her peace, and pulled you down with her. I can almost not hate her, almost. But you shouldn't have listened to her. I'm sorry I did. I cared for her deeply. She was like a mother to me. I have things to do, Debbie. I need to rebuild my life. For the second time. So why don't you take your leave from my office? Now that sounds more like the Bill Maitland I used to know. She reached the door to his office but turned to look at him. If she had left her husband for you, or if she comes back, would you? I don't know, Debbie. I've known her for less than 2 months. But I knew you for 2 years before we married, and look where that led us. 13 or 14 years of a solid marriage and 2 kids you love. True. I guess I'd marry her in a heartbeat. And if she comes back in a month or 2, I'd still say yes, if she wants me. When he turned away from the window, she left without another word.